Cop, run away quickly.
Cops coming.
Cops are coming. Coppers.
All right, the Ethical Underground. Here we go. We got guests today. Jeremy Loeb joining us.
You ain't getting me, copper.
You'll never take me alive, Kappa.
Kappa. Somebody out there at some point will open one of these streams. They'll be high as fuck. Yeah. And then they'll hear the police sirens and be like, oh shit, stash it quickly.
Only if they're in America, though. It was an American siren.
In America it's legal now, right? So maybe not.
In America, it sounds like a crying baby, the police. But in Europe, it's like...
Oh, that's true. That sounds that way.
Yeah. It's for thinking. All right, let's go. Thank you all for joining. This is the Ethical Underground. My name is Skyjack Morgan. I'm here with that chip guy and Jeremy Loeb. You all should check out Jeremy Loeb and that chip guy on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. It's funny that the cops, the doo-doo-doo-doo in Europe, in Germany, they say zu spät schon tot, zu spät schon tot, zu spät schon tot. Do you know what that means?
No.
I'm sure it's similar in Dutch, no? It means it means too late, already dead, too late, already dead.
Okay. Makes sense. Man, the Dutch police is actually probably one of the better ones, I feel. Like it's not don't get me wrong, they still have a lot of aggression in them.
Yeah.
But I think they do also have some psychological treatment or something, because they don't just kick you. In fact, I think I think I told you before, there's a sport here in Netherlands called when the police stops you, that you try to annoy the cop. It's like,
oh, what are you trying to do? Yeah. Get punched? You trying to get killed? Is that
no, you're just like,
hey, I wonder if I can get this cop to kill me. We have the same game. It's called Suicide by Cop.
Well, they're not going to kill you here. You just go like, what is this injustice? I called one cop Hitler for giving me a fine. So,
I've called lots.
Well, I told him officer, I know it was a red light, but I went through the intersection safely. I looked around, there was nobody coming, and I was on a bike.
Oh,
the reason why the red light is there is so that it keeps the intersection going. Are you just a person who blindly follows rules? You know who else did that? The Nazis. Are you a Nazi?
No, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh, that's good. I like that. That's funny because you ran up against something we're going to talk about today, which is, it's funny because you're from Romania, which is a Romance language, because they call it Romance, not because it's romantic, but because the Romans gave the language to the Romanians. And there's this thing called Roman law and Saxon law, where Roman law is exactly what you're talking about. I come to a red light at 4:00 in the morning. Nobody's there. Why wait? I'll go forward. I've observed the spirit of the law. But Saxon law is, this is the law. There's no spirit of the law. You follow the rules regardless of who's there. You wait for that light to turn green.
No matter what the law says. No matter what the law says.
No matter what. Yes,
yeah, that's fucked up. That's fucked up.
You've run into that's culture shock, Chip. You, as a Romanian immigrant living in the Netherlands, have run up against culture shock. I think it's beautiful because it fits perfectly in with what we're talking about today. Like the largest segment of the day is how can you be anarchist and not have cops? But the reason why I want to talk about this with you guys today is because after last week, I did a solo show and I talked about just no borders. I actually just talked about borders, the ethics of borders. And of course, as a person who believes in no borders, I think that the technology of borders is an unethical thing by itself. People started in the comment section being like, well, how do you keep ISIS from coming into your country? How do you keep evil spies from infiltrating your country and doing whatever? And there's actually some case studies about this, things that have actually happened in anarchist groups. And there's but I thought let's talk about a few of the sticky extra points about anarchism, because I had my own questions. I had to research these things because I'm not the black belt. Like when I go out and do vegan activism or animal rights activism, I got answers for everything people throw at me on deck, like off the dome. I got it.
Yeah.
But with this stuff, I haven't done anarchism outreach or anything like that. I don't have it all on deck. So I had to start researching and like figuring out what the case studies were, what's the math behind it, and kind of like educate myself a little bit for this one. So I'm really excited about today's episode.
Can we start with you explaining us what anarchism is, and then we complain about it?
Yeah, anarchism is not anti-organization. It's anti-centralized government. It's it's pro self-autonomy. Everything about a government should be basically means no government, no rulers, no monarchy, right? It means that you organize as a group by yourselves. You organize amongst your peers and have flat hierarchy and don't answer to a central nervous system over it. It's a distributed power system. You don't answer to a central nervous system back in Washington or anywhere else.
I guess that sounds good. Why would anyone have a centralized system, though you still kind of need, and you can see the usefulness of a centralized system, but I mean, Netherlands is a good example of why a good centralized system works well.
Why?
For example, standards, right? A centralized system can create standards, and standards can create a better experience for everyone.
Oh, that's great. So standards enforced. So that's the thing, right? So that's a great first volley, right? Standards, like let's say like DIN A4, right? In Netherlands, all the paper for every printer is the same size. Same thing in America. We have U.S. letter, right? The U.S. letter size 8.5 by 11. That's a standard, and we do that with our central Bureau for Norms, I think they call it, or something. And we have the same. We know what an inch is. An inch is the same inch everywhere, unless you ask a man about how long it is. Then it's like,
I was gonna say, I'm sure you know what it is, but
yeah.
Sky, I gotta ask you: do you really have like no A4 in the US? Is that true that A4 doesn't exist in the US?
A4 doesn't exist. It's really annoying.
Holy crap,
A4
that's weird.
A4 is the best. A4 is the best because you double it and you get tabloid, and you quadruple it and you get A4, A6, it's so much better.
The other way around. A3, A2, A1.
Yeah. Fill me in on what is A4?
It's like a letter size. Chip, you want to explain it?
Yeah, so we have documents here in the Europe. I thought everyone has that. Let me show you.
It just looks like a sheet of paper.
So this is a sheet of paper. That's an A4 sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You call this letters box? What you call it?
We call it U.S. letter or 8.5 by. Normally we just say 8.5 by 11. But
yeah,
it isn't. That isn't 8.5 by 11. It's slightly different.
It's slightly different sizes. The beautiful thing about A4 specifically, it's a standard, right? A4 is this way. If I put it in half, this is A5.
Mm-hmm.
This is A6.
That's your postcard. A6 is a postcard.
Yeah, and obviously if I double this will be A2, and if I double that, this will be A1. And the beautiful thing is that the proportions, weight to height, always stay the same. So if I double it, the proportions stay the same, and I keep double it, and the proportions stay the same. So it's a beautiful standard where you keep adding and adding.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the same proportions type of situations, which is very useful.
Yeah, so they base like all graphic design, all advertisements, everything is standardized. Instead of in America, it's like 2.5 by 3 inches, I think, is a business card, and then it's 5 by 6, and 10 by 10s, and 8.5 by 11s, and 11 by 17s. So these norms, though, right? So we do these norms. We do have a system for this in America. It's just a dumb system like everything else. But just like, we just have a dumb system. But what I was going to say is that we would still have the same norms, except it'd be voluntary, right? You'd have a voluntary association with consent rather than having a top government. This is something really simple, so it wouldn't be much conflict. But instead of having like a government saying, you will use A4 paper and all printers will be A4 by law. Every inkjet printer will print A4 by law. That's how it's done now. Instead, it'd be like, hey, if you want, you can. There are benefits if you associate with this organization, and with consent, you can do so. If you still want to do the other printer, you can. We're not going to pass laws and say you can't. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could still get stuff like that. When you say stuff like, oh, well, I see a benefit in a central government, that's totally valid, but we could achieve the same results by different means.
So you can still achieve a centralized thing without.
Well, it wouldn't be centralized. It would be decentralized, and you would have an organization that we have rotating bosses. We can unelect them. They're all elected bosses. Like no one's electing the guy choosing the A4 stuff, right? Like that's the people who are doing the norms. No one's electing. They're appointed by a central government instead of the people pushing up. You're getting pushed down. But the same result on stuff like that. What's interesting is when this result is different. So, are you with me yet? Okay, so you guys know what anarchism is, sort of, right? Like we got this. We're going to talk about Joe Freeman, the tyranny of structurelessness, because the issue here too is that restructuring, like refusing structure, doesn't eliminate hierarchy. One of the main criticisms within the anarchist community is that it makes hierarchy invisible. Like it's really dangerous sometimes because people can still, like anarchism will critique itself, and you have to always be fighting this idea of hierarchy. You have to constantly be trying to flatten it back out for an idealized state. You with me? Or stateless society.
Yes.
But the issue here is always that we're not fighting against, like the argument for anarchism isn't against the idealized central government, right? Because policing in America and policing around the world doesn't work the way it does, with the way it's being done right now. So we have to pose anarchism against what we actually have, not against the idealized how great it would be if policing actually worked. Like if cops were doing a good job, if there were no unarmed black teenagers being shot. Unarmed black teenagers are being shot. We need to compare it to actual cops. But there's one of the questions on my video yesterday was last week, what happens to killers and rapists if there are no cops? How do you do that if you don't have centralized government?
I don't think you need. Is anarchy just like an implicit centralization? Is it just against an implicit centralization, or is it like, can you have anarchy but still have like a police force?
So there are police forces, so to speak, but there aren't really. Like it's a little bit different, right? So it's a fundamentally different structure. You wouldn't have like sergeants and captains and all of these guys, and you would have more decentralized kind of militia, more like. You see what I mean? Because you wouldn't have, like, what Kropotkin, crime is a pathology of scarcity, right? And hierarchy. So it's not like it's fixed in human nature that we commit crimes. People commit crimes because they don't have enough money, or they don't have enough access to food, or they don't have access to medicine. They don't have access. But in anarchy, everyone has the same access. So why would you commit a crime? So the pathology of crime is inherent in capitalism.
Well, wait a minute, because not all crime is for money.
It's also for power, which is hierarchy.
Not necessarily. It's also, you can see that sometimes domestic violence is just there because people are
great.
Stupid.
Now that is the shit we got. Now that is where we have to, like, really, where the rubber meets the road. Now there are always going to be these other ones, right? Like crimes of passion, right? But we have to also imagine a world where the crime for money and power are gone, more or less, and the crimes of passion, child molesters, people, date rapists, people that are just they are habitual criminals that we can't rehabilitate, right? People that no matter what we do, there are these assholes that we just got to deal with somehow, right? So how do we deal with them with no centralized government? Well, I think that, there have been examples of this in voluntary communities where the community bases, like they do exile, they restrain them, and we have armed defense still. There's still armed defense against people like that. And we don't have to cede response back to the state monopoly. We don't have to turn it back over to the government. We can still police ourselves, you see? Now, you might say that's a little dangerous because we'll have vigilantes, but then again, it's not just chaos and the purge. If somebody we have, American Indians had tribunals and people that would, they had organizations for when shit like this went down. And yes, most of the time they didn't just execute people; they sent them off into the wilderness. You're not allowed to be one of us anymore.
But wait a minute, because if you live in a tribe where maybe you upset everyone for some reason, which has happened, I have seen situations, and then your spouse treats you badly, like we know how badly they can treat you, and they abuse you, they might not believe you, or they might believe the spouse, right? So
I have a question. How is it? So if the idea is that we don't want this centralized government, so I guess using the United States as an example would be a good example of president in charge and Washington.
Yeah, or any one of the states. Like if you take one state, they have the same system, right? You have like
that's
governor, a state legislature, and all that. Yeah,
that's what I was sort of getting at. Is if you're just shrinking it down, right, and then you're policing each other by community by community. That's sort of the system that was intended, in that it was, like this, small government over here. And then, of course, we have the Republican Party in America talking about, it should be states' rights, that sort of thing.
Well, they
and
used
then you've got, right. And then you've got, counties and all that. So I don't see this as very different. I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is just shrinking everything down. And then you have these, you do have a centralized sort of system. And then you become the tyrant to the person who doesn't agree with you, like in your community. So it's just shrinking it down to a smaller number of people.
Well, no, because so yes and no. So I would say instead of shrinking, maybe dialing back the clock a little bit to more original ideas of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, ideas like Henry David Thoreau, these early American philosophers who were thinking along the lines of almost like proto-anarchism, or really just anarchism before it had a name, right? For tens of thousands of years, this is how humanity existed. We had basically anarchy. The tribal Indians had basically anarchy, communal property, self-reliance, community accountability when people committed crimes. So we had that for a long time until colonialism really kicked off. Okay, so that changed the game a lot, where you had to invent private property, you had to control the means of production, you had to create liquidity, liquid money, so that you could separate people from the means of production. And so you had all of a sudden fenced off the things that we used to be communally. We would all grow stuff and we would all share it, and whatever you needed to eat, you ate. And that's how it worked for thousands of years. And then all of a sudden we started saying, no, this is mine. And if I have extra, that extra is mine too. And if you're starving, then too bad. Also, the women who live on my property, they belong to me. And
right.
Like, and anybody who was born on my property, they belong to me. So it's not just shrinking it down.
Right.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the comments. So many triggered people by the flags, guys.
Triggered by the flags? Well,
arrest all gay men, bro. What the hell? So many people are insecure.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about like crime then, like, and what to do with like criminals, because then that sort of gets to the point of like, then who's in charge? Like, because if you're saying, okay, well, killing is wrong, right? All this is wrong, whatever. Then at some point, you are acting as a governor of sorts.
No governor. So it'd be more like a tribal council, right? It'd be something similar to that, where you have a council of people who who first of all are representatives. So usually it stops at like male, female, and religion. So it's usually people of each religion are represented. men and women 50-50. It usually ends up as like 40-60 in most like historical cases, but they try to have some kind of balance that represents the group. Now,
Gotcha. So
and
just no one central figure.
yes, and the people on the tribal, they are forced out. There's a rotation, and there's also a lot. It could be a lottery. Some people do lotteries where it's like, hey, it's your turn to be on the council. We're gonna, it's just like it's not like career politicians or something like that. Sometimes they do. They just have they're forced out to other jobs. So okay, now you're on the council. Next year you're on you're the water guy. You're the guy who helps that organizes the water shit, and then in 5 years time you'll be back on the council. You'll rotate them out, so no one is completely ignorant of their job, but no one is inculcated to the point where you have a column of knowledge that if one of us dies, we're in chaos, or if one guy turns out to be a charismatic Trump type, then we don't have to kill that guy. He just gets moved out. He never has the time to like amass that power to be this head governor guy.
So how is this different from like a city council or board of commissioners?
City council. Okay, so city councils generally, there is no term limit on city councils. I've never seen a city council that has term limits. Those city councilmen, they're not rotated out. Most cities in America now, there's usually okay, so New York has a mayor, and he kind of is a governor. He's like really fucking in charge. Like he has a lot of power. But most places, they have a city council of people who say yes or no to a guy that they hire as a city manager. And so there's still this like outsourcing. And so you still have this hierarchical structure. These city councilmen, they just decide for all of us. And that's not how this works. Like there's not like this like right now you'll see these data centers, right? And right now these data centers are coming into cities all over America, and these billionaires can come in and buy those city councilmen. They'll give them money, and the city councilmen will just fuck these people who are here. I'll take the money and I'll vote to get this data center built. And they're not representing the people anymore. They're representing moneyed interests. So you see what I mean? So there's no way of
I feel like maybe anarchy works in a lot of, like, it does solve a lot of the issues that capitalism definitely breaks. But I don't think it necessarily works in all situations.
Right.
Because
but hold on, but let's not get scattered though, man, because like I want to get to all of it, but I want to specifically talk about cops first. Like what happens if people are raping and killing? And the big thing is because most of the pathology is gone, the theft and the robberies and stuff, a lot of that goes away. The power being killing your boss because your boss, that shit will go away. But rapists, child molesters, that type of shit. We have community accountability processes, and like Generation 5 Insight, they have anti-violence work, and where they can kind of incarcerate that person or move them out. But really, excommunication works great because all of a sudden you can't eat, right? Like you don't have access to our food stores anymore. You don't have access to any of our communal property. You're out. So
I actually have some questions for that, but yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go.
Yeah, so I was wondering about that, since obviously we might achieve a point. We were all aware that we're getting we're a society of overproduction nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And because the wealthy are hoarding all the fortune, we'll continuously stay a society of overproduction, more and more of overproduction. So we're essentially going to get fucked because we're going to produce so much. And not only, but we're going to produce so much, but as opposed to other times, more and more people are going to be replaced with AI. So overproduction is going to get even worse as time goes by. So I'm wondering, at some point, we will have to just renounce money and be like, you know what? We're producing so much. Just put it in the store. And only the corporations pay taxes or whatever. Only they use this, whatever they use.
So Kropotkin actually talks about this idea of abundance and overproduction. way before, and he talks about it in the age of the steam engine. And with the steam engine, we can go these distances and create all of this wealth and mine all of this earth, but they'll actually put caps on how much coal we get out. We could mine all the coal we need, and then everyone can go home and stop working. But instead, they want people to keep busy. What does that look like with AI? That's the big scary thing, right? Like, what does it look like when everyone's not working all of a sudden, and the coal or whatever, the corn, whatever you want to say, is controlled only by these 4 companies. So they own it all. They put a fence around all of the resources, and we still aren't working for liquid money so that we could buy resources from the company store. Like,
Yeah, but at some point, like, money is going to be irrelevant if the only people making money are the rich.
yeah.
Because if the poor don't have a job, then the rich are the only ones having money. So then money will mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So then in that situation, I just like to imagine that I see it on the news or they put an article and I'm like, you know what, from now on you can just go to the supermarket. There's no more money. You can just go in, take whatever you want.
Take what you need. But
Yeah.
then
I'm like,
I mean, isn't that what Mamdani's doing with the city-run supermarkets?
But then what I was thinking, Sky, is like, what stops people from doing shit like, I'm just going to grab all the vegan products and then ask vegan people for money? Like, what's going to stop people from doing stuff like being unethical about it? Like just getting absolutely all the products in the supermarket that most people like. I don't know, maybe get all the bananas. Maybe bananas, no, because you constantly produce them. But like a special product that some people really like, just going in there, getting that special product, getting all of it, and then selling it instead of hoarding it and selling it, or being like.
So this is
actually
still
have some regulations, right? You should still have something telling you to not do that.
So this is actually a thing that anarchist communities have encountered. People who are either usually it comes in two the biggest problems in anarchist communities that they have to deal with are people who are lazy and don't want to work. They just don't want to contribute anymore. And so that's always an issue, right? You have to contribute to be able to get access to the library and to the food and all of these things. And people who hoard, people who say, I'm going to take more than I need. And then you have food spoiling in their cupboards. That doesn't work either, right? And so you have to have a mechanism by which to kind of to control that. But that, again, comes with community accountability. If you are found doing that, the community says, okay, well, this guy needs to be rationed. Like if Jeremy came, he's the newcomer. He comes in and he's all of a sudden, it's his first week here. Well, this is what normally happens is you come in and for 4 weeks, you're in a trial period. You come in, you take whatever you need, Jeremy, whatever you want, you take whatever book you want, you could take. You got to find a job, work, contribute somehow. You want to take care of old people, you got to contribute something. But you could take whatever you need. And at the end of 4 weeks, the community gets together and we're like, hey, is Jeremy one of us? Are you down, Jeremy? Are you part of our ethical framework? Do you understand how this shit works? And if Jeremy's cool, great. If not, and he's a hoarder, then sorry, Jeremy. You could stay, but you can't, you're not allowed in the store anymore.
So wait, but if Jeremy has a house that's in this community, do we kick Jeremy out of his house? Do we have to force Jeremy out? What if Jeremy enters the store?
Yeah, he's not allowed to take anything. We keep him taking it.
So we have to have somebody who to enforce that.
Well, we're all together. We all know.
Oh, because you mean there's always there.
Because he lives here. We all know each other, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but like in the situation that I propose, is most of the jobs are done by AI. So that could also be in the supermarket. So would that mean that we would always have to have a person working there to make sure Jeremy doesn't come in?
Well, I mean, you are fast forwarding to a robotic future where the world has no workers, right? But the community would still be able to be like, oh, if Jeremy's, even in an AI scenario, I could imagine, because right now we have it. If Jeremy went to Walmart and stole a bunch of stuff, Walmart can ban Jeremy from all the Walmarts in America. People have been banned from all the Walmarts in America for pulling
Jeremy is actually banned from Walmart.
You're banned from all the Walmarts? I mean, they ban activists all the time from you're banned from all the Costcos. You're banned from all the Whole Foods. They do that. And it's kind of hard for them to catch you, but they do catch you. They do. And then when they find out that you came in their Walmart, someone comes up and they get the fuck out of the Walmart. You're not allowed in the Woolworth. So I mean, like if it were AI, it'd be just as simple. It'd be
I
even
mean,
easier.
maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I just see, no offense, but I just see this system leading to the exact same result that we have today.
Yes. Okay.
I,
So that's the hardest. That's the hardest one, right?
That's a good one, Jeremy.
How do we not lead it? How does it not lead to the same shit? That's a
Yeah, because
great.
like imagine if you had a person who did something bad in my community, and then they go to another community, and they did go to another. Wouldn't you want a system where you can tell every community, "Hey, this guy's a pedophile"?
So in the
whoa, Chip.
yeah, Chip,
Not
maybe
you,
not. Maybe
Jeremy.
not.
Oh, we said,
He
hey,
steals at
leave me out
Walmart.
of
He's
this.
just a
He
food
steals
hoarder.
at Walmart. Okay, this guy steals from your stores. I'm sorry, that was too much. Yeah.
Okay, so in fascist Spain, there were anarchist enclaves that did have those issues where they were separated by geography, and one worker they needed workers in the other one, so they sent them, and they would have to have some kind of voucher system, like a passport kind of, but just to prove that you're one of us, kind of thing. So if you want to go to the other one in times of war, when you're worried about people like that coming in. Also, Jeremy, remember that waiting period where Jeremy had to wait 4 weeks? That's when you would find shit like that out. That vetting process, you come in, you wait. He can have access for 4 weeks, but also hold on.
Just okay.
But also, he usually has someone sponsoring him. Someone needs to sponsor Jeremy usually.
I mean, this just sounds like government to me. I
Yeah,
mean, if we're talking about
just
like
more borders, yeah,
I
more
mean,
smaller borders.
we're just talking about different rules set up by different people. It just sounds to me like the same thing. Yeah, you've got this 4-week oppressive thing where it's like, oh, you're allowed in, but we're watching you. We're watching
you're allowed
you, Jeremy.
First of all, you're allowed to go wherever you want.
Right.
Your freedom of movement.
Yeah. But
so that's already totally different than what we have today.
We're discussing all these rules and stuff, and also we're talking about, okay, let's say Jeremy's lazy. I'm lazy. I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. 4 weeks goes by, and no, I can't use the store anymore.
Yeah.
Well, then what am I going to do?
Move along.
You want me to start working, but what I might do is start stealing from the store. And so then it's just the same. We're describing the same exact system with just different people in charge and different, like them put in different rules. That's the flaw I see in this, is that it's just a city council without a governor. It's just a city council without a president or a king or whoever.
Right. I mean, would you consider it an improvement to not have a king?
But yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, this is the thing. It's not about completely upending and living like 1850s, right? We're trying to build a better society that's more equitable and better for everyone involved, so that we have more representative, more equality, more autonomy. We're not talking about just living out in the wilderness like a bunch of
damn. All right.
Like a mythological savage in this, like it's like Tarzan. We're not being like Tarzan, right?
Right.
We're trying to build something. And you say rules, and it's funny, rules. Well, there are far fewer rules. We have to have some kind of organization to protect what we have, even if it's from wild animals, right? We're going to build fences around our crops to keep wild animals from eating them.
Well, what I would say is, you start with a few rules, and then problems arise, and then you end up with more rules, and then you get all these people like saying, no, I want it this way, because they're going to be doing that. And then suddenly the council can't do it. We just keep on ending up with the same system again.
Except that you will be in charge. Like, you will be back in the driver's seat. You will sit on council eventually. All of us will end up sitting on council. It'll be like jury duty. All of us have to do it.
What about me, as let's say it's me again from this scenario?
Yeah.
Who doesn't contribute, doesn't do anything, doesn't really like this system. Do you want me on that? Like, do I get to sit on that council again? I mean, do I ever get to sit on that thing?
I mean, I guess if you're contributing, yes, of course you would. If you're not contributing, you would never get that far, right? You would never be in the community.
Another thing is this idea of contributing too, because we may have different ideas of what is contributing.
Okay, so
Um,
that's so the kind of the mantra is each contributes according to his ability, each takes according to his need. So if you have someone who's a doctor, and that's fantastic, is just as valuable as somebody who is a field worker, right? And everyone needs to contribute. Some people just need to read to old people, and you'll contribute to varying degrees in various capacities along your life cycle, just like always, like, except it won't be tied to money. There's no reason why I should eat less as an old person who's like, I don't know, if I'm a greeter at Walmart, or during my prime in my 30s and 40s, I'm super productive. I get to make more money, and then when I'm old, I don't make any money. So if I'm not careful when I'm on my 30s and 40s, I starve when I'm older. Like, that's the system today.
But Sky, like, say for instance, because you said everyone is equal. I mean, it's easy to accept it when you're in a position where you're maybe not doing as much. But imagine if a person carries wood, just chops wood all day, carries wood, a heavy physical job, right? A heavy,
We need
intense
that guy,
physical
right? We
job.
need that guy for sure.
I mean, you need wood to build stuff, right? So you do need
Or to
somebody
burn
to
it for
chop it.
yeah,
Or
whatever.
burn it, or whatever reason, yeah.
Sure.
I don't think they'll agree that a gamer who's just playing games online so that others can watch him and get entertainment should receive the same amount of food as him. Yet maybe he's like, you see what I mean? Like people
Easy,
would
Chip. Easy now.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You know what you're
Jeremy.
doing?
Am I poking at you too
Jeremy,
much? I'm sorry,
Jeremy,
Jeremy.
do you do a lot of gaming
He
content,
does
Jeremy?
gaming also.
Okay, well, cool. I've been doing a lot more gaming content lately too.
Poking so much at Jeremy. I'm sorry, Jeremy.
You're taking my food away, Chip.
So a couple things. That you could just as easily say, and people have said this historically, that the actor on the stage of a play isn't as valuable as a person. That's how we treat our artists right now in America, the way you're describing, right? If you're an artist, you are fucking we drive you crazy with poverty, and then we don't even give you an insane asylum. You die in the gutter. That's the fear of every artist and every entertainer, every guitar player. That's your fear. That's what your parents tell you. Oh, you want to be an artist, do you? Artists die in the gutter. You better learn. I remember when I wanted to be an artist, my parents told me I better learn how to be an architect. If you like drawing, be an architect, because that's the only way to make money drawing. And I got a job at an architectural firm. And like, so what you're describing is the status quo, but if you're contributing art, why wouldn't we always have an artist class? There's no reason why we'd say, oh, artists.
Yeah, but
fuck
even
you.
within art, Sky, even within art, you'll know, like, especially if I'm a person who likes modern art a lot. And even when I see something extremely simple made, I understand the process behind it. I understand that sometimes even the simplest thing took a while to make its work. There's nuance to it. There's a lot of stuff, right? But yet somebody would look at that art, that modern art, and be like, what the fuck is this? And then they look at something from the Renaissance and be like, oh, this is real art, right? Because a lot of people don't really know how to judge with, like, art or whatever. And so imagine somebody just puts a trash can in the middle of a room, right? And for whatever reason, they
someone's doing like
art.
a Duchamp. Okay, so
there is modern art that way, which is extremely simple. And
a lot of people famously signed a toilet and called it a fountain, right?
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah. Duchamp's famous. It's a famous thing. He's an absurdist artist, and anyway, so artist class, always a difficult thing, but even in the artist class today, they contribute in other ways. Most artists don't do art 24/7. They usually have a job at a coffee shop. They usually got other shit that they do. And the artist
we don't
is
want
the same.
that.
We do. The artist could still be an artist and work at the coffee shop and
but
do
what
things.
If they don't want to do that, right? Like you said, that people should do what
though.
they feel good about doing, right?
No, they not just people feel good about what they have proclivity to do. I mean, people would have to be bought into this form of living, right? It's not, instead of the motivation being, I'm going to starve unless I make my rent. The motivation is I am contributing to a community that treats me well. I derive social status from that. People love me and treat me well because I'm helping people, and I get to do art. I mean, we have artists. Most of the anarchist communities have a flourishing art scene, and those people aren't just doing art and then going to bed. They're doing art and they're doing other shit. Like usually artists. Like,
yeah, but
Frank Lloyd Wright designed houses, right? But he also designed furniture, and he was a carpenter. He built all sorts of shit. Everyone remembers him for his. Yeah.
I think like maybe 6 months ago I would have completely agreed with you,
Okay.
but I feel like now I'm like in a position where I just realize, well, more and more every single day, that most people just follow what they're told. Most people don't really want to think for themselves. They just want to. They want to have a guideline on what to do. They want to just follow what other people say. Hey, I need to do this is good, this is bad. That's it. Like, people don't want to think. Thinking requires energy. Just like people, how they don't want to exercise, people also don't want to think, right?
Yeah.
So how does this play a role in all of this? Because if you tell the people not to think, and then they tell them, yeah, look at this guy, he paints all day, you're gonna carry wood, he paints all day, he will have the same rights as you, and you'll be upset about the fact that this person, like, you'll feel like, what the fuck, I can't do that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that that's my opinion. I'm saying, like, there's people who think that way. There's people who don't understand work and all, how much that takes and all that stuff. And there's not just that there's people, I'm sorry, most people are like that. Most people are they simpletons. I don't know how
Okay,
to put it.
so a couple things. When you say most people, it sounds like you're saying this is human nature. But
yeah, it is.
Much like the bonobos in the zoo, when we go to the zoo and look at the bonobos, we can't then determine, okay, this is how bonobos behave. No, that's how bonobos behave in zoos. But we actually have historical evidence. People are like, right now, the status quo is that you're exhausted from work, you're exhausted from your fucking boss, you're exhausted from that shit cop that just said something to you, you're exhausted from all the inundation of advertisements, you're exhausted, and then you want me to think and drive myself. I just want to do what I'm told. And so that's where the state comes in, and they say, yeah, we got you, we'll tell you exactly what to do. By the way, eat what we tell you to eat. But hold on, shit, let me finish. So historically, Indians, you know, and primitive cultures, I shouldn't call them primitive, but like early culture, they had shitloads of art. It seemed like everyone had time to do art, but they were doing shit. They all had shit to do, but they still found time to paint the caves and make pots and paint the little pots. It seemed like they were doing more art in the ancient world. We're doing less of it now.
I'm just wondering, like, if you think, I forgot my idea now.
I got Jeffrey. Jeffrey's here. Yeah, I want to bring up Jeffrey. Go ahead, ask your question, Jeremy, and then I'm going to bring Jeffrey on.
Okay, just go ahead and bring Jeffrey. But also, just a clarifying question. Just when you bring up anarchist communities, are you referring to historical communities, or like, are you? Because my question is, if you're talking about, like, say, communities who identify as anarchists, like. And I'm sorry to make this America-centric, but
no, we're Americans. That's okay.
Yeah, not Chip,
not
but
me.
You know,
yeah.
But if they are an anarchist community in America, they're still living under the state. You know, so
yeah.
So go ahead.
Totally. So there have been, when I speak of ones that are stateless-ish a lot of times too. So anarchism being stateless, we have stateless-ish communities that have existed alongside the state, like in fascist Spain, like in Syria. There was the Rahabi, I think it's called. They existed under, they kept ISIS away, and there were the Kurds. The Kurds, they don't have borders. They have anarchist communities that, and there were some complications there, but they no longer exist because of the United States. But anyway, they have to the way it is right now. You exist within a nation state and try to like live alongside, almost like. And in America, you could think of it like a hippie commune, or in these utopian experiments we've had in the United States that are usually agrarian and rural, but they needn't be. I'm going to bring on.
I also remembered my question. Okay.
Great. Jeffrey, are you ready? Give me a thumbs up, Jeffrey. You ready to go? All right, cool. Jeffrey's ready. This is Jeffrey Phillips, everybody. Welcome. Jeffrey is so the way I thought we'd organize the episode was actually that Jeffrey and I are going to be the anarchists, and we have the skeptics or the neophytes or people with questions, and we try to address them and talk about anarchist communities and stuff. The one we're on right now, we already covered no cops, but we can always circle back. We always circle back to no cops, and we
definitely didn't really solve that.
Well, what do we do with rapists and killers? I guess.
I also have I feel like we're presupposing that a lot of the issues in society or in general are coming from just the lack of money, but in fact, a lot of the issues can also come from poor mental health. People growing up in a bad family that had poor mental health, and there can just be a lot of these situations that can still exist in our anarchy, right? So, say for instance, I had people who I'm thinking of people who when I was young who didn't like school. They were kind of lazy, or so the teachers called them. They were unmotivated, but they were probably in that situation because of family situations that they had. And that family situation, sure, maybe in that situation was because of poverty or something. But it can also happen that it's not because of poverty, but rather because, somebody is feeling extremely insecure, like we see a lot of people in the chat right now, and they lash out and they blame others for them being insecure, right? Like, it doesn't solve the insecurity and the way people behave. You see what I mean? Like,
yeah, but okay, so two things there. One, it's almost always caused by lack of either wealth, or so it's either lack of, hold on, it's either a lack of means or a lack of access to healthcare. Now, if you have
rich people still behave shittily,
and they don't have access, and they don't have access to mental health, or it's been stigmatized, and so a lot of times
people, yeah, they do.
But when you say rich people behave shitty, it's because they're being incentivized by the you're here. Sorry. If you're the rich people acting shitty, it's because we've incentivized greed. They get profit out of that. The profit motive.
No, but I mean, they actually they're rich people who have access to mental health, have access to healthcare, and they still behave shittily towards their kids. They still have, because of them being extremely insecure about their own masculinity or their own whatever, right? Like far be it from it, that's the thing about it. Emotional maturity is not something that comes with wealth or education. It's something that you need to work on in a completely different way than all others, right? Like, just like any form of intelligence.
Okay, so my question is, how do we deal with it now, and how do you think we should deal with it?
Oh, well, I think we need to teach people about emotional intelligence and have all that stuff more in schools and explain to people what happens and all that stuff. And obviously that would still put like my point in this isn't that anarchy wouldn't solve this. Obviously, it's a separate issue from anarchy, and you could still solve it in some similar way that you would in an anarchist system or in a non-anarchist system. But my problem is that when victims of emotional immaturity arise, how do we deal with those victims? How do we deal with those people? Do we shun, if somebody in my community is an asshole because he was treated like an asshole, and he's an asshole because he was treated like an asshole because somebody else treated, doesn't matter. Maybe even because it came from maybe just trickle, it's generational trauma.
Yeah, I get it. It doesn't matter because a habitual offender is a habitual offender, right?
Yeah. Like,
so how do we deal with how do we deal with someone who's a habitual offender that we cannot we cannot rehabilitate?
Or I don't necessarily mean that we cannot rehabilitate, rather.
And problem solved. That we rehabilitate them.
Yeah, maybe we rehabilitate them, but how should I put this? Maybe they're not I don't know, somebody who cheats on somebody else, right? Like somebody like that, right? Like, I mean, when somebody who does things that are shitty and they create problems in a society, and they create emotional disturbance, which eventually leads to emotional frustration, which eventually leads to other stuff being done.
Okay, but Chip, how do we deal with them today?
Well, I don't think we deal with a good way today also, but at least today we can help the victims out. I'm not sure how we can help the victims out in those situations.
How do we help the victims out? Right now, if you talk the people you're talking about, we put them in jail or we kill them. That's what we do today.
Well, in the US, right? But we have rehabilitation here in the Netherlands a lot. We have social what do you call it?
Yeah, but what is your question? I don't know if it's
my question is, in all this situation, right? Like, obviously it's not about how we deal with those people. How we deal with those people, I'm assuming anarchy can create a way to deal with those people. But my question is, how do we deal with the victims of those people, right? Like, for instance, what has happened in my vegan community is we have had a couple who they broke up and they were both shitty to each other. They were both shitty to each other, right? And
Yeah.
it can happen. And when you have a community, it can happen that people are just shitty to each other for being a community. So what happens in that situation? Because you can't take sides and you can't kick one of the community out or the other. And keeping them in that community could just mean bad for the community, right? So I'm just like, human nature means we will inherently fight. Fighting is part of our human nature. So when we fight in a tight community, as tight as that is, if it's 100 people, even 1,000 people, it's pretty tight. Then what happens next?
Let me ask Jeffrey. Jeffrey, what do you think? I think I know, Jeff. What do you think, Jeffrey?
What's the question?
So if you have two people who are you have spousal domestic dispute. They're both shitty.
Yeah.
They're both shitty. What does the community do?
Nothing. Call me old-fashioned, but I think the level heads in a community can figure out better ways of dealing with bad actors than the government does. Right now, if you're victimized, you become victimized again by the state, by the state taking that the bad person and putting them in jail. The victim's being taxed for that bad actor to go to jail for however long. So it's getting victimized again in the system now. But I think for the real bad actors these days, police are policy enforcers. They're not really out there doing anything. They're not doing they're rarely finding murderers and killers and rapists. Yeah. So when those few bad actors do pop up, the level heads and the smart people, the men of the community, can figure out far better way of figuring out what needs to happen with those bad actors, dealing with the family of those bad actors, the friends of that bad actors, the people in the community. They could find a way better way than using the state to put that criminal into jail to become a super criminal, to come out and cause more problems. How we have things set up now is awful, inefficient, victimizes, makes the victim a second time. Like he was saying, we got to take care of the victims. Getting rid of the criminal is how we take care of victims, to make sure they don't become victims again. They don't need to be compensated in some way by a state or anything like that.
But we also have to make sure that the victims don't become criminals themselves, though. I mean, that's also something that we've seen, right? We have someone is victimized and they become especially with things like hereditary, like people who are victims of child molestation, or people who are victims of spousal abuse, and we do see some of that. But Chip was talking about. But I think you're right. I think that we could figure out a better way of handling that than the state coming in and taking away people's kids and doing shit.
And the free market could find far better ways of doing things. All these services we get from government would be given way better by the free market for a lot of reasons.
Maybe I can explain. I just feel like, when it comes to communities, right? Like for me personally, I feel more anxiety being in a community than a smaller community. Personally, I feel like I have a little bit more freedom when there isn't a small community, because I feel like
when there isn't, I don't understand.
Yeah, when there isn't a small community.
Okay.
I'm a little bit like that, right? So
you like the big community.
I like being small. I don't like being like somebody who people look after or look at or whatever, right? I'm like,
I get what you're saying.
It's kind of funny that I'm a YouTuber and
you want to be a wallflower. You want to blend in.
Not necessarily blend in. I just want to do my own business. I don't want to necessarily, because I have days when I want to do one thing and days when I want to do another thing, right? I want to have the freedom to pursue what I want to pursue, and I feel like that can create a lot of animosity when you have a smaller community, because you're like, what do you mean you don't want to chop wood? Who's going to chop wood now, right?
Oh, because you're all on the hook.
Something like that, right? I feel like that's also like, because I went to Romania now, and my dad is a devoted communist. He isn't one anymore. And I was actually talking to him about communism, because I'm kind of a fan now that you mentioned Sky, all that stuff. But there's one thing that he said that I don't really like, which was, you couldn't really do what you wanted to do in communism. You were doing what you were told to do, so that it's for the common good, right? You weren't really doing.
So under communist Romania and USSR, they had someone telling them what to do. They had the state telling them what to do, which is exactly what what also communism supposedly is moving towards. Like communism wants a stateless, classless society. Marxism is all about trying to eliminate that top-down shit, and that the workers organize themselves. We decide.
But if everyone wants to be a YouTuber or everyone wants to be a software engineer,
but they don't.
But I'm not saying everyone. Obviously, not everyone will. But there can be a situation where most people want to do the same thing. Like we all know that. Like nobody wants to separate the trash. Nobody wants to wash the toilets, like the public toilets, right? Nobody wants to do some stuff. There's some stuff that nobody wants to do, and there's some stuff that most people want to do. So I'm like,
I always hear
I wouldn't mind cleaning the toilets in a society if someone had to. I wouldn't mind.
Also, clean your own fucking toilet. You always get this thing. The capitalist always is like, who's going to wash the dishes? Wash your own fucking dishes.
The public toilets.
Right. So public toilets, if we have public toilets, we have to take turns to clean the toilets. Like everyone takes its turn.
Public toilets most likely wouldn't exist. There would be a toilet that would be maintained by someone who owns it that would be renting it out to people.
Or I mean that under libertarianism.
If we had anarchy, things would be very different than they are now. Our whole society would look totally different. So there wouldn't be public toilets because someone would have had to have built those public toilets at one point. And that's kind of the thing I have the problem with taking over the communism thing and the Marxism thing was taking over the means of production. Someone had to build those means of production. Someone had to put their money into that for it to be taken.
That's what Kropotkin talks about, right? Like, so in the great scheme of all the people who have lived and died, all of human effort have created these means of production, so they belong to all of us. It's not someone; it's all of us. Our entire human history led to the steam engine and these factories. It wasn't someone put the money in. Someone took money from others and then used technology of others and then said, okay, now it's mine. I'm going to put a fence around it, and now you have to pay me.
I agree with you on that, right? I agree with you on that. But we all know there are, for example, natural parks, right?
Yeah.
You want a toilet in a natural park.
National parks,
national parks, right? Yeah. You want a toilet in a national park. You want at least a couple of them, right? You have a city.
You could bring your own stuff in. You could bring, like you go camping.
No, that doesn't work. Come on, it doesn't work for everyone.
Okay, so people do camp and people do bury their own shit. But when you have things like that, that's a great example of how the state is taking money from all of us, and they're built. That's an example of socialism. They built a toilet, and we all pay for that toilet. And we make sure that somebody's there to clean it from time to time, and we do that. So in our anarchy, somebody would build a toilet at some point, or we take a toilet that's already existing, and then we take turns cleaning it. And like you have examples of military, like the toilet example isn't great, but you know what is military, where you have almost like a necessary hierarchy, right? You have. But the more distributed it is, the better it works, actually. So you don't have some general in Washington telling you what to do. You have people on the ground making their own decisions for a stated purpose and goal, and then you act in concert. And also the troops elect their leaders. The troops elect who is the boss, and they follow it to the end. So. Sorry. Let me just. So the toilet still needs cleaning in a military situation, right? You have to have military camps and you have military toilets. Like they figure it out. Sorry,
I think this toilet example is
that might be a better example.
I think it's actually a good example because you're talking about this system what we have where everybody's going to take turns cleaning the toilet. No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're going to go in there and piss and shit everywhere and leave. And then it's going to be fucking like disgusting. Because that's what happens now.
That's what happens now. That's what happens now because everyone thinks they're above cleaning toilets. But
Yeah.
that's what happens now because everyone's like, I went to college, I don't clean toilets. But you know what, man? When shit needs doing, look, man, I've worked in restaurants. I've cleaned lots of toilets as the general manager, the top boss. I've cleaned toilets, and sometimes I had to ask other people to clean toilets, and everyone cleans toilets. Like, if anyone who's worked in a restaurant knows that every server has to take turns cleaning the toilets. Every gas station, the person who's behind the cash register, they all take turns cleaning the toilets. Like,
well, maybe, like, I don't
But
know.
there will
Like,
always
this, maybe you have like people who are cleaning. Anyway, I feel like it's such a innocuous example, but it does kind of get to the heart of like what.
Yeah.
Okay, so in an anarchist society, you're going to have public ostracization is going to be a real big thing. Your reputation is worth more than anything in anarchist societies. So if you go and you fuck off in this community and you don't do anything, the people of the community are going to be like, get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit. And anarchist societies are going to pop up. Like if government was gone tomorrow, right? We're going to have every city we have now is going to turn it into its own little flavor of society.
yes.
And so if you go to these cities and you want to be a part of them, you kind of have to play by the rules. Or you could go live out in the Badlands in the desert and not have to deal with anyone. But if you want to, if you're going to play by the rules and you want to live in one of these communities, you have to go by the rules. Anarchy does not mean no rules. It means no rulers. There will be independent communities in anarchy that happen where communism is happening. There'll be independent communities where, super republicanism is happening. In anarchy, there's space for every community and every flavor of like you'll be able to go to San Francisco if you're, if you really want to. You can live in San Francisco if you know what happened. What kind of people hang out in San Francisco. You might want to go there. You might want to go to New York, and every one of these places will have their own rules. Unlike now, where we have rules across the board that we don't have any choice. We have to follow these rules. In anarchy, all anarchy means is you don't have a gun to your head by the government, but everything's going to look the same. People think it's going to be Wild West. When the free market takes over, these communities are going to be awesome. And in order to fit into these communities, you got to play by the rules, or you get sent out you get sent out to live with. You have to have like insurance to get into one of these cities. Go ahead.
I have a problem with what you said. First of all, you said that it's based on reputation is very important.
Yes.
I severely hate that. I hate that so much because
let
me explain why I hate that so much. Because me as an animal rights activist, right, as a vegan, I can tell you that when I tell people to not exploit animals, they freaking hate it.
But that's
and I would have a reputation where people, where I would have
shit has nothing to do with your
there
work.
Will always be, but
that's nothing to do with the reputation of your work. What are you talking about? Like
I'm just trying to explain. What I'm trying to explain is that when you're going to be a person who challenges the system, a person who challenges the tribal tradition, whatever it is that you've always done, your reputation is not going to be a nice one if it means people are not going to like it, right? So, and we can't we have to take into consideration that people will be religious, people will follow traditions because that's just how humans are.
You're going to likely live in a community where veganism is accepted, though, because that's where you're going to choose to live.
But
also,
just to be clear, I don't want veganism in my community only. I want veganism everywhere because veganism is a justice movement.
Well,
I want
not
injustice
something you can
everywhere.
That's not how the world works.
But the world could work that we're not killing animals. It's perfectly fine. And here's the other thing: someone who's doing that, you'd have to have, first of all, your ideology is welcome at the table of all of these tribunals, right? All of these tribal councils. You aren't discriminated against because of your gender or your ideology or even your religion. You're not discriminated against by that. That's already in That's baked in the cake for anarchy, right? When he's talking about reputation, we're talking about the social status that you derive from a job well done. People like the pat on the back. People look up to you as a great member of the community. If you're the smartest guy, a doctor's a great example. They just mostly work with their brains, and everyone looks up to them, right? And meanwhile, the guy carrying wood, we can look up to him because he does a great job carrying wood. The way it works in capitalism is the doctor, we pay a whole bunch of money and give him a big fancy house, but the person mowing all the lawns and making sure everything's pretty, making sure the roads are nice, people look down on those people. And that's fucked.
Wait, are we comparing? But are we comparing capitalism to anarchy? Because there's obviously some middle ground, right?
No,
like we can't
anarchism is based in open markets and people being able to do whatever they want in these open markets.
Well, anarchism is communal property. So we're talking about open anarchism is always going to end up going towards communal property where we have no one owns the means of production, and you take what you need and you contribute what you can.
Okay, that's where we disagree.
Well, I know, because you're more libertarian. That's okay. We're allowed to disagree. But anarchism taken to its natural ends is everyone walks in the supermarket.
100% harmony, everyone working together. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No money, Yeah.
Right.
These are
no money.
So if it was set up in the way that you're describing, Jeffrey, at the beginning, right? So how do you ensure that it doesn't start to degrade over time and become less and less the system that you want it to be and become what we have?
Well, because no one wants that. No one wants to have their money stolen from them. No one wants to. Well, most people are in anarchy most of the day, and most people like that. Most people don't want a cop in their house watching them with a gun to their head, making them do things they don't want to do.
Sure.
So, and by having multiple flavors of communities, you have people that will gravitate towards those areas where they want to be. So if someone wants someone wants to live in a prison state, basically, where they have cameras in their house, if that makes them feel good, they can move to a community where that happens, and they have the choice to. The problem with things are now, we don't have a choice. We can't opt out of the system. In anarchy, you can opt out of whatever local systems there are. Right now, you can't. Like I said earlier, people think, oh, we're going to be back in the Stone Age if we go if we lose our government. But as you've seen, we've had no government many times in the past 10 years where they've shut down the government. We've been fine. We don't need this government, and we don't need to.
Not just that,
government forces us to live in cities because it's really easy for us to tax us. We're not supposed to be living in these big cities.
Come on.
So,
living in cities is not because of that.
Cities are absolutely because of that. Central.
Cities are essential.
Even in the ancient world, in the ancient world, they had cities, and they usually failed.
What are you talking about?
What's that?
They're extremely efficient.
They are not efficient.
They're efficient at taxing.
They're
efficient let me just explain.
Putting
for example, cities exist.
In the last 10,000 years, we've been building cities and they collapse. We build cities and they collapse, and they collapse under the weight. They collapse under the weight of the people.
Hold on, guys.
I just want to explain what I mean by cities being efficient. So when it comes to food, which is one thing we all need, it is much easier to move food when everyone is in the same place.
You're thinking
than
profit-wise,
to build roads, than to build roads, hundreds and hundreds of roads in between because this is a big problem in US, isn't it? The fact that you made cities for cars, cities that are spaced out far away, and people don't really live close enough. They can't walk to a place. They need to get in a car to get to that place. So if you don't have cities, if you just have widespread or suburbia, as we call it, you just have a lot of people in a really large spaces, and in order to get to the supermarket,
you're just illustrating the fact that cities always fail. They last a couple hundred years, and then they collapse.
Suburbia fails.
So
cities are amazing.
We're still thinking in the mindset of We have a state that gives us a currency that isn't worth anything. You're saying it's much easier to distribute food in a community, but yeah, profit-wise it is. But if we have, no, hold on. If our dollar is worth something, yes. If our labor is worth in anarchy land, our labor is worth far more than it is now, right? So, so you're not going to have these, it's going to cost too much to move money around because the economy is going to be better.
Not money, resources. Resources are finite. But I don't mean money, I don't mean resources in a money way. I mean, essentially resources, they're finite.
What could be more efficient than we all work of the same farm? What could be more efficient than all of us working the same farm?
Oh, wait. So first of all, the whole idea of subsistence agriculture, I come from that. Romania has subsistence agriculture still.
Yeah, but just hypothetically, what could be more efficient than working all of us working the same farm? Forget about all of the political weight of subsistence
If you could make
farming.
everything on all that farm, it would be efficient. But the reality is that a farm, one single farm, is not efficient enough, like unless you put some form of vertical farming. Like maybe you can create a form of a farm where everyone works on it. I'll give you that, right? And where everyone works on it and you produce all food.
Chip, you're a vegan activist. You know why they're building vertical farms. They're only building vertical farms for one reason only. Cattle. And that's the only reason they're doing it is so that they can control the means of production. The billionaires can, because they're the only ones that can afford to build. They're the only ones that can afford to build vertical farming, and they're hedging their bets against climate change because vertical farming in these giant buildings, they can control the atmosphere.
You don't even want vertical
They can control
farming.
the sun. Why the fuck would I want vertical farming? That is the only reason.
Because it's highly inefficient to have regular ass farming. To feed, you can't make enough food.
Your mind about this efficiency thing is just propaganda from the capitalists.
Sky,
because they need to make it more efficient.
No.
That's
Sky,
why they're doing that.
My grandmother made food for herself. My grandparents were subsistence agriculture.
Mine too.
I'll tell you what.
All
they
of
didn't
our
have
grandparents
everything.
did that.
No, Sky. They didn't have everything. They
I'm doing
couldn't
that right
have
now.
everything.
My grandfather was a farmer.
You can't have everything on your own farm. It requires way too much land for one person.
You don't need everything on one farm, dude. That's why trade. That's why you live in a community. What do you mean? That's why community exists.
Yeah.
Money.
Okay. So imagine if everyone has a farm, then everyone lives far away, and then you have to drive everywhere, and then you have to use gas. And then in order to use gas, you have to
thinks it's going to be Wild West. He thinks we're going back to the Stone Ages.
I don't think you're going back to the Stone Age, but this whole idea that cities suck, I think it's so misinformed. Cities are freaking amazing. Maybe cities in the US suck. But cities the cities that are made for people, cities are actually amazing.
This is just a red herring. This is a red herring about this city thing.
Let's get past the city thing.
Cities are great. I've lived in cities and I lived in towns. I've lived in the country. I understand the benefits and pitfalls of both. Okay, I've lived all over the fucking world, by the way, in cities and rural areas. So I'm very experienced with this. But this whole idea of vertical agriculture for efficiency only serves one purpose, and it's profit. And it's profit for the billionaires, and it's hedging their bets against climate change so they can continue to distribute the means of production and keep it from you. That's all it's there for. That's the only reason. They're not doing it to feed humans.
Maybe that's what it's used for. Maybe that's what it's used for. It doesn't mean that that's the only thing it's good for, right?
That's its purpose.
No, that's not.
That's why it exists.
Yeah, but that's a little bit like saying that's the purpose of a farm animal. That's why they exist. No,
it's like saying that's the purpose of a gun. A purpose of a gun is to kill people or defend yourself. That's why a gun exists.
Can I cut in? Like, wouldn't I don't know much about this topic. Wouldn't the purpose of vertical farming be to use less land to farm more food?
Exactly.
For
that's
whom?
my purpose.
For
everyone
eating.
living there. Yeah.
So that we don't have to use so much land.
We don't need very much land. We need about 24% of the existing farm right now just to feed humans.
I know that.
Okay. But why would you need more land?
Well, I'm just saying, like, isn't the purpose of vertical farming to use that less land?
To feed more animals.
You're describing a vegan world. You're describing veganism.
No, I'm not describing a vegan world. You guys
you are describing veganism. When you say that we only need the 24%, you're talking about not feeding farm animals, right?
Right. If we don't feed farm animals,
right.
So
that's why
are we feeding? Okay, so it's not about vegan world. This is not about veganism.
Go ahead. Sorry,
but but the reason why this is great is because since you're all vegans, you already know all the facts about farming. But the reason why we use all this land is not because people like eating animals. It's not because people enjoy hamburgers. It's because because these big companies like Cargill want to take 16 pounds of grain, funnel it through a cow, and sell a pound of flesh at a higher price. It's just in pursuit of profit. The only reason they want to make farms more efficient is not to feed more humans as some utopian society. It's to feed more animals so they can make more money. That's the only reason they want to do it. Now they have to figure out a way to grow more grain on a plot of land so they could feed more animals, because in capitalism, you grow or you die. That's not about trying...
I understand that.
So it's not about veganism. It's about the profit motive marching us off of a cliff. These vertical farms people are talking about is a canary in the coal mine. Once we start doing these vertical farms, that's the beginning of the end, guys. That's fucking apocalypse time.
No, come on. You can still have a vegan world where you can use less land. But we moved from the subject.
It's not.
So
that
I want to come.
Fucking lie, Chip.
I want to come back to it. So before I don't want to, like, even if we go down the road,
it's not.
Everyone has their own farm.
Hold on, no, because you keep saying the same thing and it's a lie, Chip. They're not trying to grow more with less land. They're trying to grow more efficiently so they continue to make money.
I understand, Sky, but that's not a given. Sky, that's not a given. They don't have to do that.
Climate change isn't a given.
Okay.
No, so let's imagine that we have a vegan world. I'm sorry, Jeremy, and I'll be done. Right. Let's imagine that we have a vegan world. No more feeding for the animals. We use regular land. Yeah. If we could have the agricultural land by using vertical farming, why the hell wouldn't we?
There'd be no reason to.
There would be, because we can still rewild. We would still be a lot of people. If you
tomorrow, let's say you snapped your fingers and you took 76% of the world's farms and you just rewilded them, and only 24% exist anymore because you have to feed human beings, no one would be talking about vertical farming. There'd be no reason to.
No, they wouldn't be. There would be no reason. But why wouldn't we be efficient enough as to create even more wildland?
Because they are efficient enough to feed us all.
Yeah, but not efficient enough to rewild and slow down or reverse climate change.
If you rewild 76% of the farmed land right now, there's no motivation to build vertical farms.
Okay,
I think we're way off track.
Let's move from this subject.
Yeah, but just to summarize, I think that Chip is describing what the ideal would be. He's not describing what the companies that are proposing doing this are doing it for the purpose of doing it. And when we say the stated goal is to feed more people, I know that companies are trying to make profit. We understand that. That's the whole point of what they're doing. We live in that world today. So that's the sort of baseline where I think maybe the disagreement was happening. Now, I agree with Chip in that if we, got rid of 75% of the farmland because we have a vegan world, we don't have to feed farm animals anymore. It still makes sense to give that land back to the animals if we can vertical farm. That why wouldn't we? I truly do not understand why we think we're entitled to that land and the animals aren't entitled to that land.
We're also animals and we need to eat.
And we can do it with vertical farming. We have innovation.
There's no reason. The only reason. Listen, guys.
I'm not a vertical farming
advocate,
again. By the way, I don't really care.
Vertical farming is being sold to the human populace as this ultra efficient way of feeding more people, and that's not what it actually is. It's an ultra efficient way to make more money for the billionaire class. That is why it exists. There's no other purpose. They are not trying to feed more people. They're trying to make more hamburgers.
Sure, but can it not be at the same time invented for profit, a good way to make profit, while also a good thing that would save a lot of land?
No.
It cannot be both at the same time.
Yes, it can.
Okay.
Come on. Open your mind a little bit. Let
me ask you, do you believe...
There will be...
Do you believe that they are going to stop farming what they're already farming in order to replace it with vertical farming? Is that what you think?
We're talking about utopias right now anyway. This whole discussion is a huge hypothetical that is not realistic and not going to happen.
But people want to do it.
And you guys are repeating the propaganda talking points of the billionaire class.
No,
But
we're
I don't-
saying
I don't-
Jeremy is right. We're talking about a utopia now, and in a utopia, why wouldn't we, if we could reduce the land by 75%, as you said, by no longer having animal agriculture, why wouldn't we reduce it by 87.5%
98%,
or
right?
98% by using vertical farming?
Fine.
Because around those vertical farms would probably get kind of like gross. Because you're going to be blocking out. You're going to have a big warehouses full of stuff instead of just putting it in the ground. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I mean, in anarchy, in this utopian land, people will do vertical farming and they'll be allowed to, and people will do normal traditional farming and they'll be allowed to. There's not going to be someone around saying you have to do this or you can't do this. The markets will bring these things up. People trying to fix the problems that we have in society. I think we're getting stuck on kind of a topic that's just not really important.
But I wanna ask you on this topic. Let's say everyone is farming, right? Like this, I was coming back to this, and you say we do trade, right? Like I give you an apple, you give me a banana back, right?
Barter.
And let's say an apple to a banana works fairly simple. I give you an apple, you give me a banana back. But if somebody makes I don't even know, like there's these big ass fruits in durians. Durians is a good example. I know not a lot of people like
Durian
durians.
fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're fucking huge,
They
right?
stink.
And they stink, right? But like if say somebody makes a fruit like a durian, which has so much in it, is that equal to an apple? Like, do I still trade it to an apple? And how do we start trading this? Is an apple equal? Like, do we start trading by calories, or do we have to have a measurement unit on how we trade?
So in anarchism, you wouldn't be just trading apples for durians. Everyone would bring their stuff to a centralized place, and we'd all have like libraries. Or
okay.
It'd be like a food library. Think of it like that, where anybody can come, and if you like durians, you get durians. If we find out that no one's eating durians, then we ask the durian farmer, hey, you mind growing a few less durians and maybe grow some bananas? People love these bananas, and hopefully they will. It's just like
There'll still be currency in anarchy too. Like there's not going to be no currency. The people will agree that things are worth money, or that like silver and gold, stuff like that. You'll still be able to buy stuff, and it'll be, huh? Well, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen.
Why?
I just like the
maybe not at the not at the end.
You're telling like
beginning.
the idea of like like we're not going to have leaders, but Jeffrey is just describing how this is going to work. Well, not everybody's going to agree with Jeffrey, so Jeffrey's sort of in a sense acting as a leader by saying this is how it's going to be.
And you'd be able to move out of the city I live in and go live somewhere else.
But then we just have countries. Like that's what we have now. We have countries. If you don't like America, you can move to Romania. You can move.
No.
So are you describing the world?
No. We have no choice now. We have a gun to our head now.
No, we can. We can move.
You can't
leave. It's
just
the exact system that you're describing.
Hold on. No, you can't.
No, you can't. You can't leave.
You're describing the European Union
right now.
Wait, you're describing the European Union, are you not? You can leave the country. You can move to another country in the European Union.
The government.
No.
In the European Union, you can freely move
we
to
don't
any
live
country
there,
you want.
and that wouldn't exist in anarchy.
Hang on. You can move to another country. People are doing it all the time. You don't have to
very
beg the
big
country. You just it's a process, but you move.
Jeremy, you can as a white American, but if you're from Sri Lanka, you can't. You can't leave and you can't go. You're not welcome here.
Okay, but I'm talking about like the world system, and now somebody's saying like, well, that's the system in Sri Lanka, and I'm saying this is the system in America, and this is the system in. We're just describing like a smaller version of the world.
We're talking about communities rather than
the only solution we have, though. And there's no other solution.
Jeffrey's talking about a step in between, right? This idea of gold and currency and shit, but we don't actually need it. Imagine, if you will, an apocalypse occurs, like in Walking Dead. You guys are familiar with the conceit, right? There's been a virus or something that's killing everyone's a zombie, and then what happens? They build communities, and some of those communities have like a dictator, like the governor, and he's being a douchebag. He's got a harem. He's got people doing what he wants. He's like this evil dictator, right? You don't want to live there, so. Where would you rather live? Would you rather live with Rick, where he's like, "Hey, we've got like a community, actually,"
right. And maybe you can't leave the dictator, right? Maybe he's got you trapped, just like we're describing Sri Lanka.
So it's a good point. It's a really good point. So right now we have the freedom. So it's funny because we have I think I think it's the 13th actually. Human rights. We have the human rights, the international human rights, and one of them is the freedom to leave. But it's kind of funny because there's no corresponding freedom to come. There's no freedom to go anywhere. There's no there's no freedom to actually enter any place. And under anarchy, one of the fundamental ideas is that any freedom of movement. That's the biggest part of it, which is how we got into, because this is how we got into this, right? I made a show last week about a world, what the ethics of borders, and we get into this talk about, well, without borders, do we have laws? Without borders, do we have governors? Do we have presidents? No, we don't need them.
So then I'm wondering, because what Jeremy said was like, if you remove the problem and you allow free movement of everyone, just as I said, it is in the European Union, say everyone just makes a trade and everyone is free to move and they actually follow through with it, that wouldn't be anarchism, yet it would still work, right? And what's the problem there then?
So the European Union is a really good example of how a bunch of semi-socialist states, semi-capitalist states have created a consortium that's closer to this one world government people are very afraid of. But they have something in common, right? They're predominantly white. They're Western civilization, which I'm loath to use because usually racists say Western civilization. But
they're not the same ethnicity though. Predominantly white is like I know that in Europe, in US, you look at the skin color. In Europe, we look at ethnicity, but ethnically we're different.
You have all right, man. Like the way Western civilization is kind of framed is like since the Greeks, like the birthplace of philosophy and the birthplace of art and neoclassic and classical trial by jury, the birthplace of democracy. That's how the Western world is framed, and Europe has a shared history, and they've been at war for 1,000 years, and they decided European Union was how they're going to stop doing that. And then they had the European monetary system, right? Now, these are ways of getting together and having, like a United States, we have a similar situation where each state, if push came to shove, California really could secede if the federal government couldn't enforce it. If the federal government didn't have a military forcing them to do what they want. And I think that's the future, right? As the American empire crumbles, we'll see like a Swiss cheese America, where you have parts that are kind of running themselves, like anarchy, or like the governor in Walking Dead. You might have situations like that. So you need to be very careful so that we don't go back to tyranny. You have to be really careful as you form these communities, or else you'll just have another tyrant.
But then isn't anarchy just that? Like, because I really like Jeremy's point. Isn't anarchy just essentially that, where countries that have free movement between them?
Not only. So generally, the biggest problem is, I think what Jeremy, I don't want to speak for Jeremy, but I think what Jeremy's biggest concern is, aren't we just going to get back to the same situation where we have bosses telling us where we can go, when we can go there?
Yeah, not to interrupt, but you're like I was just pointing out, like in Jeffrey describing sort of a leaderless society, that's telling people how to live. There are people, I know it's...
No, because you could go live in a community where there is leaders in the anarchist community. So it's exactly, but you'll be able to leave. You'll have the option of opting out.
You could go to...
Not what we have now.
I don't understand this.
So, for example, so let me give you an example. In Syria, they had, up until very recently, there was an anarchist community of Kurds, and they had a military. They were running themselves, and eventually, America changed the way we feel about them, and we decided to no longer support them, and we decided that actually Syria is great, and we're going to change the way we feel about Syria. But up until that point, if you were a member of the Syrian Rojava, if you were a member of the anarchist community, you preferred the way ISIS did shit, and you liked ISIS, you could just leave and go join ISIS. You could leave. No one's keeping you here.
So what's the difference between just having countries with free trade and anarchy? Because it sounds like that's exactly what we're describing. Just countries having free trade and free movement.
It's more than that. It's more than just free trade and free movement. It's
why? You said you can go to a community where they have leaders. why isn't that a
Well,
country?
they'd be non-anarchy,
Well,
right? They wouldn't be
they're not
anarchists.
they're not leaders like we have now. There's a basic
or it might be
rule
worse
system.
though. It might be
Yeah.
worse though, Jeffrey. Like I guess the thing is, if the world isn't anarchist at the same time, you would still have the option to go join fucking. So in the Swiss cheese America, because that's how I think America. That's how most historians think America is going to finally go out. It will be like where the government, where Washington can exert their rule, they will, and where they can't, they'll cut off, and they'll say, "Do your own thing." And as
Isn't this
so in those communities where they're doing their own thing, they could still go to where the military has control and everything. They could go to wherever they want to go and be part of America still, and be part of the dictatorship of the United States of America.
Yeah, but isn't this like a little bit? Because when I ask, okay, but we're talking about a utopia, sort of, say, right? So
Yeah.
in a world where everybody adopts anarchism, how is that any different than just having countries that spread and have their own government system within them?
If all governments are anarchists, right, and none of them have, the governor from Walking Dead, and none of them have money, and none of them have these hierarchies, then
But
it's
wait,
a very different world.
Jeffrey said that people can have money, right? So,
well, Jeffrey's talking about a libertarian
Not a
sidestep.
government-funded money, not a government.
okay. So let's imagine this, because to a lot of the things I agree with, right? Like I do want free trade, obviously, and free movement of people, right? Obviously, I think that should be an inherent human right. I think that's stupid that we don't have that. But and I also think that government handling money there's some weak thing there that is opposed to corruption. But I don't think that we don't need people who govern, right? I still think there is a necessity of centralization, governance, and all that, without having to involve money and profit and all that, right? Like there still is some best for all of us to have one person who decides what's best for all of us, but rather who, based on multiple things that people want, makes a decision for all of us to adopt, because in that way it's better for all of us, right?
Okay, so
like for
great.
instance,
But how
if
do you
I want to
keep that
drive
person
on the right side and you want to drive on the left side, it's best that we have somebody, and everyone else doesn't care. It's best that we have somebody who says, no, everyone drives on the right side.
So that would not be one guy. That would be a consensus. We would reach consensus. And if we had 40%, hold on, if we had 40% that wanted to drive on the left side instead of the right, they form their own sister community. That's how that's happened in the past. Because they have come up with problems like this, where, well, 40% want to drive on the left and 60% want to drive on the right, and we can't reach consensus, so we're just going to start two communities.
Okay, but I remember, like, so the first time that I was on your channel, Jeffrey, you were describing like how useless voting is, right? But now we're talking about like majority rule, like
not
consensus.
Majority rule. Yeah, consensus.
Okay, I'm really confused by it. Okay, so starting from the ground up of one of these communities, like I said earlier, and this may get back to the point of how do we not just end up with the same exact system that we have now. You start from the ground up, you have very few conflicts start to arise, you start to deal with them as a community. The more complex they get, the more, how do you, okay, here's a good question. I think that may get to some of the heart of this.
Hypothetical.
How do you, in this hypothetical, how do you ensure that moneyed interests, power, don't start taking over? Because I don't think there are going to be just like people who are like, don't want to accumulate wealth, to accumulate things.
So, where you don't have we have monopolies. Government makes monopolies where things start. That's when that starts happening, is when the balance is given to government and their friends. That's when you start having problems. Let's say a company is making ketchup. Brand X is making ketchup, and one day they make ketchup that kills someone. The people who vote with their dollars are going to be like, okay, I'm going to use brand Y that is selling not poison ketchup for a lower dollar amount. So the market actually chooses which businesses stay around. So you don't have these big problems that end up happening where government is monopolizing an entire sector or an entire industry, and issues start happening.
Wait a second though, about this ketchup example.
Yeah.
Okay, you have this non-poisoning ketchup, and then you have the poisoning ketchup, and people start using the non-poisoning ketchup, so people keep buying more and more of this ketchup. That company grows and grows and grows, and the idea that they're just going to stay ethical and not ensure their quote unquote monopoly.
You have competition. When you don't have monopolies, you have real competition.
But
Another ketchup company can show up and sell a cheaper product
but they can't, because the other one's grown so big. It's that the other one keeps growing. No one's going to come in and try to do something else.
If they grow that big, then that means they're doing something right. They're offering a product for the lowest.
That doesn't matter. They're still killing people. Chipotle is still a huge. Chipotle has killed.
Don't kill people.
Chipotle has killed people. Jack in the Box has killed people. McDonald's has killed people through E. coli poisoning, salmonella, all sorts of things. And at one point, Chipotle had multiple people dying on both sides of the country, a transnational emergency of people dying, and still Chipotle exists. Capitalism does not work. Libertarianism, I'm with Jeremy here. Once you introduce this idea of money, there's always going to be one of us monkeys are going to want to hoard all the money and create more power, because money equals power.
That's a monopolized money that is monopolized by the government. They're saying you have to use this.
It doesn't have to be monopolized by the government. It doesn't have to be monopolized. If we all agree on what the currency is, if it's gold, silver, or then shells, it's not working, because you'll still have someone who is rigging the system in order to accumulate massive amounts of wealth. So you're using
examples of now for something in anarchy.
Capitalism doesn't work.
Be totally different. Things will be completely different in the future.
So the company that's amassed all the wealth may have been doing something right the entire time. Yeah. But they have grown so large because of that doing right, that they now have
vote with their dollars power. Will leave that company if they start offering.
Right. Is that what happens?
That's not what happens.
That's not what happens now, because we are living in a different time.
But
I definitely agree.
Government monopoly right now. We aren't living in anarchy.
It's not just that. Jeremy's right. If you have a company that's getting bigger and bigger, then they amass more and more wealth. They amass more and more power. They can pay.
And if they got that money in a free market, that means the people were voting for that company to be the biggest company.
and now that company is cutting corners so they can, because the
profit people will leave. They'll go to the next company. They will
do not.
What? Okay. Hold on.
Wait, here.
The poisonous ketchup company kills a bunch of people, and there's a non-poisonous ketchup company. The people are going to keep eating the poisonous company.
They certainly do. Yes.
That's silly.
If it's tastier, they do.
Let me get.
It kills them, you guys. You guys are being ridiculous. It's killing them. They're not going to eat the poison. People don't buy poison now for no reason and eat it.
Jeffrey,
they do.
Jeffrey, if the company
if you have a choice to have a poisonous item for the same price as the other item, you're not going to eat the poisonous price. You're not going to eat the poisonous thing.
Let me just
it kills you right like that. You're just I'm gonna go buy a gun and shoot myself because I can. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so if the company that was not poisoning people amassed $1 trillion. And now you're saying they're doing.
Who cares if they have money? What is it? What is?
Because listen, what they do with it.
Let me go through it. So they have $1 trillion now. Now they start doing unethical things, and there's these other ketchup companies that come around. But because they don't have $1 trillion, they can't make their product cost a penny versus.
No, they cannot.
That company can overnight.
That is ridiculous. I can start a car company right now, and we've seen this happen. We have cars that have been shitty, and cars like Ford will destroy a competitor that comes up. Right now, we have in the tech companies where you have unethical tech businesses.
No.
And not only that,
why though?
I can explain why.
Examples of right now, but that.
Of course,
let me explain why that happens.
Wait. One thing right before you, Chip. The company that has the $1 trillion now also pays for the people that sit on these boards that you have set up.
Boards, bro.
Yes, that's how it's set up, because all the people, like these 6 people, they're going to say, "Oh, here's $1 million for you. You sit on this board and you do." It's exactly the system.
There's no boards. What do you mean?
So I can explain why. So, by the way, the reason why a big company, even if the company is being fully ethical, the reason why a big company could afford to make less products than a smaller company or whatever is because, I had my own company. I saw when a big customer comes in and says, "Hey, if you make 10 products for us, or we keep giving you work, will you drop the price for us?" And I'm like, yeah, okay. They keep giving me work. I will no longer have to look for work. It's a different situation. Whereas a smaller company, when they just want one product, they want to produce one product, right? Like this whole idea that I'm producing a lot of products also makes you have more leverage, have smaller prices, and get in that position. So therefore, your product will be cheaper. And the reason why most people, by the way, because you say people are not following poison, even if they're a little bit poisonous, right? Like a lot of people nowadays ingest a little bit of poison every single day, and they have no problem with it as long as they get pleasure from it, or as long as it's marketed in a way where they think that, is it really poison?
Or
right?
or they say it can't be done otherwise, like with lead. Lead killed millions and millions of people and gave millions of people brain damage. People are walking around today with brain damage because of lead. And the companies who did it said we can't compete unless we use lead. So since all the companies are using lead, no one comes in and is like, hey, I can make it without lead. Vote with your dollar and buy it from me. Wait, it costs 20% more? Sorry. We're not good. I'd rather take a little poison.
Who's to say it's more?
Because it was. We have a historical example, many historical examples where it does cost more to make it cleaner. It costs more to make it cleaner.
That is monopolized by the government.
This has nothing to do with monopoly of the government. The oil companies have run rough. They run the government, and the oil companies, when they were making gasoline, they put lead in the gasoline because gasoline without lead in it made a little knocking sound in your engine. So they put lead in it, and they all did it because no one wanted the other type of unleaded gasoline.
Yeah, it's trial and error. That's life. You have to go through these things to figure things out. You're giving. Wait, hold on. You're giving me an example of something that's changed.
No,
Jack. Hold on.
Once they knew it,
you're giving me an example of something that changed because the market knew
the market
it was
did
bad.
not decide that.
Sure,
it's not. It was the regulation.
The market did not decide that we're all going to use unleaded gasoline. The government decided to regulate them.
And if you have an educated populace that votes with their dollar, they're going to.
There's no voting with your
dollar for poison.
I can't believe you have such faith in capitalism that you think that the capitalist is going to allow us.
Your entire system is based in an unethical move. You're saying you're going to steal the means of production from someone to start your utopian society. That's based in unethical movement.
It was unethically begotten. The means of production is unethically held. It belongs to all of us already. It's just that it's been taken from us.
Wait, do we all know about the situation in the 90s with the sprays that destroyed?
You didn't do anything for that. You're not entitled to. Sure, you did.
I did just as much as they did.
Someone spent their whole life working.
Cargill family, the 20 billionaires that run the Cargill family that started over 100 years ago.
You're using the biggest examples that go for your argument.
The biggest examples, the ones that make the most money and control the most means of production. Yes, of course I am.
Government is not like.
But we do need regulations, right? Like, as I said, like the spray ones that destroyed the ozone layers, the only reason why we don't longer have those was because of a united effort, actually worldwide united effort to create regulations to not have that. They don't destroy the ozone layer. They might be bad for the environment, but they don't destroy the ozone layer.
Aerosols have been severely limited because of exactly what Chip is talking about, because of global effort to limit their production.
And you can't have that without government.
Of course you can, but the way you got into the reason why the government has to be so ham-fisted and heavy-handed is because of the evils of capitalism. Because capitalism doesn't work without a very robust regulatory environment, and that is proven time and again.
Not true. That's crony capitalism. You're thinking of something else. You're thinking about government backup. No. No, it's not.
It is.
Wait, so Jeffrey,
absolutely not.
You say the people need to be ethical, but the billionaires don't. The people need to be ethical and do what they're told, but the ones who have the money, trust them, they're in charge. They're not going to kill you. And yet every time we trust them, they kill us.
What were you going to ask me, smart vegan?
I was going to ask you is anarchy, because I'm confused now, is anarchy like both on the far left and on the far right?
There's overlap because libertarians and anarchists
they meet in the back.
Yeah. So, like, for example,
so
Jeffrey
it's
and
like
I
this,
are
okay.
closely aligned
Classical
ideologically,
liberalism.
but he believes in capitalism, and I think it's a scourge on human beings and separate us from our humanity.
Okay, so that's a good example then.
That's funny.
Since you two like disagree vehemently on one of the issues, but you align in terms of anarchy, would you consider yourselves to like? Would you be able to set up the same kind of community, or would it be like no?
In my anarchy land, in anarchy, you can have what he wants. I personally wouldn't live in that neighborhood, but he can have what he wants, and he's allowed to go do that.
Okay.
My neighborhood would be actually anarchy.
We're agreeing on the neighborhoods. We're disagreeing on the neighborhoods we'd live in, not
he would be
the community.
In libertarianism, they tend to agree with things like personal freedoms, and anarchy is vehement about is strict about personal freedoms. Right? Everyone can do what they want. The only issue here is that libertarians, they still think capitalism.
Everyone can't do. That's not at all what I believe in. Not
What
everyone. Anarchy doesn't mean I get to do what I want. That's not what anarchy means.
Well, you do whatever religion you want.
There's no big government holding a gun at my head telling me what to do. There is in the community, though. There will be rules.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
For
but
you,
they
Jeffrey.
won't be. Like.
Okay, can you allow for the fact that, allow for my opinion that a company can become so large that they become very powerful? Do you agree with that? Like amass
sure.
a lot of power. Okay. So in your, like, say you have set up your anarchist community here and Sky's got his community over here. You've allowed this company to grow in your community.
That's not anarchism. That's not anarchism, Jeremy. But yeah, that's libertarian.
Well, that's what he's described. Okay.
Yeah, but like the labels matter here because when you talk about the nitty gritty, anarchism is about personal freedoms, just like libertarianism is, but there's no rulers. In libertarianism, the rulers are de facto corporations that have amassed large sums of wealth.
Okay, but let's just say that they're just a corporation.
Corporations don't exist in anarchy.
Right.
I mean, like they do now, not like they do now.
But they do in libertarianism. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeremy.
Well, the only point that I'm making is that it could be a situation where you set up your community in the way that you think is right, and Jeffrey set up his in the way that he thinks is right, or exists in these. And then the thing that happens in Jeffrey's comes to affect the one that happens in yours, because there's
the communities would have rules against that.
Yeah,
but
no,
you have borders. You have borders just like we have cities, counties, states.
Jeremy, you're totally right.
Around your town.
So if Jeffrey's community wanted to, I don't know, hoard gasoline or something on their property, and their system could poison mine. They could poison the rivers in the street. If I'm downstream from him and he's poisoning the river because he's got some mad capitalist that wants to, I don't know, dam the river because after all, he can control the means of production. The river doesn't belong to all of us. It only belongs to the billionaire. Then yeah, it could affect my community for sure. Because my community says the rivers belong to all of us.
And then if your community is an impediment to what this all-powerful corporation is in that doesn't exist but exists in Jeffrey's, then they're going to start meddling in your local community to make sure that you don't get in the way of their problem. And we just have the same system that we have today.
It's really dangerous. You're absolutely right. The ketchup company that gets too big, the ketchup company that gets so big that it starts building jet planes and fighter planes and shit, that could be a threat to my community, right? Because this fucking ketchup company's gotten so big that now they're diversified. And we've seen companies do this, right? They start out small and then they become monsters because that's what they are.
That's
what
the government allows them to do.
That's what.
But who would forbid them if we don't have governments? Wait, who would stop them?
It's not forbid. It's government supercharges bad corporations. It's not that they're like, well, most definitely they do.
I mean,
the government bails them out when they fail. I don't know how I guess they give them government contracts and stuff. I mean, who's paying for the jets, I guess, but
I kind of like Jeremy's point, like, because, like, you know, all of us have lived with somebody, and all of us have realized that when you live with somebody, there's these small rules, like, do you wash the dishes right after you cook, or do you wash them after you eat, or do you let them in the sink and wash them the next day, right? There's these kind of things that are small things. And I'm like, if you kind of assess all these small differences, and somebody says, like Jeremy said, they're at the top of the river, and then they're like, I don't want to fucking move. It's easier for me to build my plane here, and you building your plane here does create downstream pollution. Maybe you're not even like bad intended. You just really genuinely don't care about the other community. Who would stop you? Maybe that other community doesn't even have anything that you want or ever want. So therefore, you have no incentive to care about them. So who would stop you from saying?
You only have. I mean, you're
just
trying to say that like this community owns something outside of their community. What do you like?
Well, they
community would only be, huh?
So the jet planes.
So the whole hypothetical is, so if I live downstream from a stream and they pollute me, anarchy won't work. Like, what do you? I'm confused.
No, I'm saying like the community who is downstream, right, at the river. Maybe they are building things that some communities need, but maybe all those other communities could get it from other places. But nobody can get jet streams from any other place other than me. I'm the only one building jet streams. I'm the only one doing it, and I'm saying I don't care about these people. So I'm just going to build it this way because it's the fastest and easiest way, right? Whatever you build, and you create some form of pollution. And the person that suffers from just one community, I'm not even saying like a big deal, just one community is suffering from this.
It's so much
and
worse
this one
than that,
community.
Chip, it's so much worse than that. The ketchup factory that Jeremy introduced, right? We have actually an example of this. There's a company called Ball that you might are familiar with. They make mason
glass
jars, glass jars. That's how everyone knows them. But they're actually in aerospace. In the 1950s, they diversified even further to aerospace industry. They make aluminum and they build jet planes and they do all these things and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now they own the they own the stadium in Denver. They own all sorts of things now.
What awesome things this company's doing for everyone. That's so rad.
Sure.
That's amazing corporation that's advancing the human species.
It's making tools of death is of course. Aerospace is great. Like they're making
well, that's when you have government. You say that's government.
Let me
government
can I
monopoly, the government aerospace.
All right, we've got two communities, Jeffries and Scott's. Yeah. And in Jeffries' community, there's a river that starts in Jeffries' community, flows.
Let's come up with something but a river.
No. The river's great.
Everyone's stuck on.
No, the river is great because the river starts in Jeffries, flows to Skies, and Skies' community relies on that water. But in Jeffries' community, there's a company that wants to do dairy, and so they start hoarding all the water for their alfalfa farms. This is a real life example that's happening with the Colorado River. So in Jeffrey's community, they're taking all the water, and now your two communities now have to work out a situation with each other, and you have opposing ideologies. How is Sky's community going to get water now?
Yeah, that's why wars happen, right? Scarcity of resource.
Yeah, wars, and this company can start charging Sky's citizens to use the water.
Yeah,
but what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
This is because you're holding me at gunpoint, saying I can't drink. You're taking the necessity of life away from me and charging for it.
Who said
that's capitalism? No. You've just described capitalism. You just described why human beings have wars. Capitalism always leads to this. They fence off the means of production. The water in this case, but it could be land, it could be anything.
We don't even have that now, dude. You can go to a fucking stream and get water right now. There are many communities.
There are communities in America because of capitalism.
Where can you go to a river and not put a cup in the water and drink it?
Well, a lot of times you'll die because they've been poisoning it.
Nonsense, dude. That's absolute nonsense.
So you've not heard anything about the data centers. You've heard nothing about data centers poisoning all the groundwater. You've heard nothing about that. You've heard nothing about Flint, Michigan, where they could light the water on fire for a while. This is the topic
of the month, dude. You guys weren't talking about these centers a month ago.
We talked about water rights are a perennial problem.
And this is happening in a government monopolized community. You cannot use what's happening here in any circumstance for what's going to happen if anarchy happens. Everything is so fucked right now. You can't use any of these examples.
But can't we agree that some issues can impact multiple communities? And when those issues impact multiple communities, there can be certain communities who have power over what happens with those issues, right?
Yeah, and that community that has the rights to the water might want to sell it to the ones down from them so they can.
What if they don't want to do that? What if they don't?
Who doesn't want to do that?
The
people
that community.
downriver.
Maybe they want to. Yeah, maybe
Then they have
want
to find
farm
water
animals
somewhere else. They don't live where the water is coming through.
The river
So
goes through two communities.
They should have built a place that was in the community.
I should have
They
built
should
it
have built a
further
river
up the
somewhere
street.
else.
See, this is
Sure.
exactly
So
what
they
that's
should move.
exactly what the capitalist always does. The capitalist will always blame the
Bro,
government.
the problem is
and ignore
humans
the
are
fact
nomadic.
that
We're
the
not
government
supposed to
only
be
exists
staying in
because
one
of
place.
capitalism.
And it
the
comes
only
back
reason
to the cities.
The only reason you
Cities
have this
fucking
government
suck.
that you don't like is because of the
Disagree.
capitalism that you're talking about. The whole reason you have to have government is to control the companies stealing the water, control the companies poisoning the water.
Need capitalism for a certain amount of time. It's a
Capitalism
transitionary thing. You're
Capitalism
not going to just have your
encourages
no money overnight
greed,
and everything working
avarice,
out perfectly.
and
It's going to
theft.
take some time where you're going to have to use
You sound
currencies and
Kevin
stuff
O'Leary.
like that.
You're no different than Kevin O'Leary, the Canadian Emirati who comes to
That's
Utah.
completely fine
steals
if it's
the
not
water.
government monopolize it. He's not making the money off of government holding a gun to people's heads.
So it's okay to have billionaires rape us
Yes,
in the ass,
billionaires
but
are
not
fine.
government. Okay, but you
No,
still get
they
raped.
don't have the same power.
You still get
Are we
raped. by the way.
Corporations don't have the same power of government.
Okay, but
Agree.
are
Can
we-
you agree to that?
It's worse with
No,
corporations.
absolutely not. Absolutely
Are
not.
we?
They have a
Wait, can I
stated
can I
goal.
ask?
How,
Are we
how
okay
would a
with-
corporation who has to make their money be worse than a government who steals money from everyone? That
Wait,
doesn't
I want
make
to
any
ask
fucking
because
sense.
wait, can I ask
You're
a
stealing
question
the
before we
water.
go? Because I feel like both of you are debating whether you should have or not money.
No,
But let's
we're
just imagine-
debating a pointless debate that's never going to work because it's based on a nomadic species being stuck in one place and we're not
but
supposed
I
to be.
want to
These
ask
big
a question.
city, the cities are the fucking problems, dude.
Sure. But what if a government was not involved in money at all, but just in regulations? Would you have a problem with
Governments
that?
are a vacuum. If you make a tiny government, it immediately becomes a giant government.
But it's okay
people can't
to.
control
I don't have a
government.
problem
But this
if you have a big
anarchist
government.
this anarchist system is a government. You're describing rules.
not.
You're describing. Yes, it is. It's a government. You're
It's
describing
a government
system
you're
where
able
people,
to opt out of, Jeremy. There's
Yeah,
no gun to your
and
head.
it's a government.
Like there is with
Just
government.
like you can.
No, it's not.
You can leave America. Just
It's
like
a
you can
local
leave
government.
Romania.
So you don't like
just like
local
you can
community
leave.
governments.
I'm not. I'm saying that this is just the system shrunk down. That's what I'm saying. And the reason I bring up this river example is because I'm just pointing out, no offense to all of you, that this is just going to lead to the exact same thing. I'm not saying the system now is working, by the way. It's not working. This may be a better solution. I'm not really even taking a position on this. I'm just pointing out the flaws in the system. It seems to me that we just get to the exact same point. It starts out one way, and then you got these problems, and then they have to work with each other. And then the people with power and the people with money, I don't understand where you think that money is not going to influence these like rules that are in place. I don't understand why you think that's not going to happen, because people want money. They want things. They want women. They want.
Corporation is keeping you from going down to the river and getting some water and filtering it and drinking it. No government or corporation is going to stop you from doing that.
When we hang the last capitalist, it'll be with the rope they sold us. It'll be the same. It'll be always something where they're trying to keep what's necessary to live away from us and charging us for it. What Jeffrey's trying to do is trade the government for a billionaire class and hope that they don't do the same thing to us. But they will,
don't, because we're regulated by the people, the people's dollar. We have no way of controlling the government right now.
You're just talking about robber barons.
We have a way to control government corporations.
We've had,
because if we don't buy from them, they disappear. If we have no choice over government. No choice. We have no way of controlling government, but we do have a way of controlling corporations.
America's first corporation was a gun company.
Corporations are always controllable.
They're not controllable.
Yes, they are. The community could stop. The people could stop using the money with the government.
And here I'm saying, in anarchy, the people run everything. There are no corporations. You elect the people running any kind of.
How are you going to enforce that?
What do you mean? How do you enforce it?
How are you going to enforce your communism?
Well, well, first of all, it's not communism.
How are you going to stop someone from starting their own business that doesn't involve other people? You're going to point a gun at them and you're going to say, you have to be Marxist. You have to be communist.
Well, actually, you know what they've done in the past when people say, okay, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Sure, you can have that land over there, but you can only have as much as you can farm yourself. You can't hire anybody to do it. You can't hire anybody to work for you.
That's what I explained earlier with my community.
You could farm for yourself. If you don't want to be in and you want some land, you can only have as much as you can farm for yourself by yourself. You can't
and if
hire
you're
a bunch of
living
other
in a
people.
community that's getting poisoned water from another community, you can move somewhere else. You can move 6 miles away to another water source. I'm not saying to move to a different country, you guys. I'm just saying you can move.
You still are kneeling at the altar of capitalism. You're kneeling at the altar of the billionaire and hoping that they're going to give you a fair shake.
It's called free market. It's called equality.
That's not equality. If you're a billionaire, there's no equality.
And here's what I'll say.
We control the billionaires. We can't control the government. We control the billionaires by voting with our dollars.
That's what the government was built to do.
Jeffrey, I think you're right about this in that the sense that like now what Sky is describing is like you're not allowing corporations, you're not allowing a business to take off and really have success. So then that's like a regulation that you're stopping someone from like really taking off with their thing. I don't understand why we don't see the flaw in that, and we also don't see the flaw in a company that is so massive. Like maybe we don't stop that, but you have to recognize that does lead to this issue that we have. Like I don't know why you don't think like a corporation that has $1 trillion isn't going to influence the politics in.
There's no $1 trillion. What corporation in anarchy land has $1 trillion? If there's not even $1 trillion,
we're not in anarchy land. You're describing something that is an anathema to anarchy. You're describing libertarian market economies where billionaires can dam up rivers if they want to.
My system is the only way that's fair to everyone. You are stealing the means of production from someone. You're stealing. There's no stealing in my system. Everyone gets a fair playing field.
You are talking about stealing because the land is the means of production and we all own it. We all own the air.
Nobody owns land.
The river.
But Jeffrey,
in order to own land, you need a government to legitimize that. So I don't understand.
Once you fence it off, once you're a billionaire, once you
there's no billionaires fencing it off. What do you mean?
That's what you described. Your ketchup company.
I'm curious I
didn't describe that at all. What do you mean?
I'm trying to
You don't own land in anarchy, bro. You use land. You don't own land. You need a government to own land. To legitimize owning a piece of land, you need government. That is a flaw. That's what I'm talking about.
Hang on. You just described a community. Hang on. You just described a community that you can opt out of. You can leave this community. So you're saying it's not geographic?
You can leave the area.
But you're saying you can also opt out of this system.
No, I'm saying a human cannot own land.
Right.
Land
I
owns
understand.
Humans.
But I'm trying to get down to this like idea of like you have different communities that have a system and you can opt out of that one. So are you saying that it's not tied to any geography? I'm just trying to clarify that.
Not legally tied to any geography.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just it's not like there will be a wall.
Okay. But what if the company has set up like a factory, right? Like the ketchup company or whoever has set up a factory. Isn't that theirs? Like what how would you say? So they've set up a factory to make ketchup.
No, I wouldn't say it's theirs at all. It's the community.
It's the community. So then Sky can come in and shut it down.
The future of them sending their money that way.
So Sky can come in and shut that place down because
Sky
it's not
can come
theirs.
in with a new business that does better than that company and outshine them and make them disappear by offering a better product at a lower price.
But he can also walk in the door of the place and shut it down.
Do we have guns?
Because it's not owned, right?
Do we have guns in this scenario? Because Kai could come in with guns and just...
Because you don't own the land. So you're saying you don't own that land.
You can't come into a place if they don't want you there.
Why not? If it's not owned.
If this community has gotten together and decided on a set of rules and they decide to put up electric fence around their building and only allow people in that buy a certain insurance from them, then you're never even going to get through the door.
I don't know why
we're talking about owning land now.
This is not anarchism at all. That is not at all anarchism. No, the way anarchy would work if we all started as
so you can't have a community that comes together and makes their own rules in anarchy.
Anarchy would do is they would create a ketchup company together, and we would try to vote together on how to make
you
the
would
best ketchup.
steal a
And
ketchup
that we would-
company from a corporation.
You keep on saying these things like you're saying, or you want to start
Take over
now
the
as a
means of
revolution.
production.
Are you talking about a revolution? No, because you're mislabeling means of production. You're completely mislabeling
You're
over
saying
and
take
over
over
again.
the factories.
The factories exist on our land,
The factories were started by someone's blood,
So
sweat,
in that
and tears
situation, so in
that
that
you have no right to. You have no
in
right
that situation,
to that factory.
of course that's our right. Of course that's
No.
our right because it's
You have no
on
right
our
to that
land.
factory.
But here you go. The way you would
You
do
don't
in a
own
revolution.
land.
Could I speak, please?
Well, every word
Please.
out of your mouth is.
Please. It
go
belongs to all of us. It belongs to all of us. It's a communal
Says who?
property. It's on all of our land. So here we go, because you said yourself that land is owned by the people are owned by the land, not the other way around. But either way,
What
we
if
all
no
own
one
it.
wants to work at your ketchup company?
Okay, so in a co-op situation, what you would do is you would all create the owners, the workers would own it in this scenario, that the workers would all benefit from that. And so in a community, we would all benefit from the means of production. So instead of someone at the top saying, I make the decisions for the ketchup factory and you do what I say, that's just dictatorship. What instead, you flatten that and everyone is working together. The decisions are made collectively. The wealth produced by it is distributed collectively, it's distributed equally, and that's how you would make a ketchup company. You wouldn't try to have one ketchup company, a guy at the top who's trying to collect all the gold and keep on going and going and going and going until he's like a company like Ball or some other cancerous company like Boeing that keeps getting bigger and bigger and until they're involved in everything.
You're blaming an entire thing on the actions of a few examples of super extreme circumstances.
It's the system.
The monopolized system we have now that allows corporations to become fucking crazy big because government tells everybody.
Government picks and chooses depending on the government. What the government's supposed to be doing is having an adversarial footing against these corporations in order to regulate them to keep that from happening. But instead, what happens? They amass enough wealth that they could buy the politicians so that they operate against the will of the people and against the interests of the people. That's what's happening. That's the status quo, and capitalism demands that. Capitalism will always go that way.
So I just like. I understand Sky and Jeffrey have a lot in common, but we somehow reached the place where
we're not talking about
the differences. Yeah. So I'm like, can we come back a little bit, because I still have a couple more questions, and through all these conversations, I'm still failing to see what Jeremy's point from the beginning was, how we don't reach in the same world if some communities have more powerful guns and they just want to go there and take over some things, or they just want to
have their own security systems in place. They don't just get taken over.
Yeah, but there will always be somebody who has a better.
Life.
There will always be somebody who has a better system. So then,
not
aren't we just
necessarily
building borders again? Aren't we just making the same things? Lines, borders.
Yes,
they're borders, but you have the option of opting out. That's the only difference.
But
right
so
now,
if we're talking
we
about
don't have
borders,
the
now we're
option
talking
of going
about.
out.
I think this point of land ownership is important too, because you're saying that you can't own land is what you're
without
saying.
a government.
Without
a government, you can't own land.
Okay, but then you can own the factory do you own the land that's underneath the factory?
No, you use the land.
I'm confused.
Okay, but then Sky has complete access to that because you don't own that. You're using
If I'm using it and he's not, then I get to use it.
But he's coming in to shut it down. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm already there using it. Why would he need to come and start
because
something
it's
online?
fucking his community up.
Yeah, because you're poisoning my river.
It's not.
So again, this is again where so in anarchism there wouldn't be these borders.
There's
and
no
these things
answers
like this.
to everything, you guys.
Again, there are actually.
No,
we have
not.
anarchist communities that
the world is a balance of bad and good, and it's never only always going to be good. Like,
well, that's why I'm pointing out.
Don't have an answer.
But Jeremy,
it's a lot better. But a lot of this situation, this system is way better than how we have it now.
I'd like to try to answer your question, Jeremy. So can I just clarify? Are you talking about an outside force? Because I think we addressed how outside forces are treated. Or are you talking about internally, how do we keep tyranny from rising again? Because that's, I think, a more interesting question. Like, how do you keep someone who's charismatic from amassing power? How do you get someone who's collected all the shells? How do you keep that from happening? I think, was that your question, or are you talking about outside forces?
Well, I'm talking about both, but we can focus on the interesting one. But I think what I'm just pointing out is just that there's a flaw in all of these.
Yeah,
And I
this movie.
and again,
There's not a
yes.
flaw. There's not a flaw in anarchy. There's a flaw in libertarianism because they're basically just Ayn Rand,
well,
but they want
Stop
to
it,
worship
Sky.
the dollar sign.
well, let me just
Sky,
say it.
stop
There
it.
will be
Stop poking Jeffrey,
the-
Sky.
the-
I'm
Come
not
on.
poking him. I'm poking
You
capitalism.
are. You're just poking
Well, let me
him.
just
Come
say-
on.
Capitalism
let me-
has always it always resulted in death.
Well, let me just say there's a flaw in your version
is
of anarchy
communism.
as well, because Jeffrey doesn't like it. And so the flaw is there that he views your way of anarchism as tyranny, because you're stopping people from being successful, amassing wealth based on their hard work. And he's right. In some cases, it's people have done the right thing and developed a great company or something, a great product. And if you shut that down, then that is infringing on someone's freedom. Yeah. But the problem is that Jeffrey can't seem to recognize that that also leads to this other thing. And what I'm just pointing out, yes,
It can
you're right.
lead. It doesn't always lead.
It doesn't, correct. But the point
and
that I'm
mostly
making,
because uneducated populace lets it happen.
Yeah,
and in anarchy, everyone would obviously be a lot more educated and stand up for themselves more.
I guess the point that I'm making is I'm not saying either of your systems are wrong, because obviously the system that we have in place, like everywhere, seems to be extremely flawed.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we are, and it's sorry to rehash, we are going to get to that same hodgepodge of rules, regulations. I agree with this. I don't agree with that. And so go ahead. You're shaking your head. Like,
no, we don't have these rules and regulations. We have in anarchism, not libertarianism. I want to make a real fucking clear what Jeffrey's describing is libertarianism. In anarchism,
anarcho-capitalism,
anarcho-capitalism, if you will, sure. And anarchy is against
libertarians believe in small government. So let's clear that.
By the way,
libertarians believe in a small government.
Supply and demand will fix everything.
I need to go in about 5 minutes, guys. Sorry, just like
okay. So let me just address the one question I think you were trying to ask, because it's one that I did want to address on this show. Is that the idea that how do you keep someone from like Trump happening again? Which I think that was the title of this episode.
What
anyway.
is Trump?
Kill him
again. A charismatic figurehead who ends up becoming a dictator, someone like a Hitler or a Stalin or somebody like that.
We've had a dictatorship for 100 years.
How do you keep something like that from happening? How do you keep something like that from happening? You have random selection. It's called sortition. You remove the campaign and charisma pipeline strategy. That you just remove that pipeline completely, so you are not rewarding this charismatic person to rise through the ranks and in order to amass power. You randomly select leaders. You can have ranked choice voting. All these things that can limit all these ideas of this dictator, a Hitler-y type person rising to the top. You have a mandatory rotation, which looks a lot like term limits, but I think we talked about it before. How you might be these couple years over here, but then you're leading a different. You're leading the water company or something like that, or leading utility organization, because we need people who have organizational skills. Today you're organizing in Parliament. The next week you're organizing. Next couple of years you're doing this. Recallability. Of course, we have the recall in California, but most places don't. Midterm recalls we can do as well. You don't have to wait till the next cycle. And also federation. So there's not one single node holding all the power. So that you don't have to. So you don't need to defect to escape tyranny. You don't have one node controlling all the power at any given time. So there is this no corporation, no billionaire, no one who's rising up because they're amassing either popularity or wealth. You eliminate that pipeline completely. That's the idea.
Also, you'd have to hold a gun to people's head to do that, though.
No, you don't.
But you do have to wait. I'm like, this whole thing.
No,
but this whole idea of forcing people to a gun, don't we need to have something like that? Because I'm like, well, just let me just for a second, like female genital mutilation. It's a tradition that happens in certain cultures. I don't want that to happen. I'm completely against it.
Well, vote with your dollar, Chip.
No, but regardless, anarchy or not, I'm like, if this happens in whatever community or anything, I'm like, no, I would rather have a regulation that nobody's allowed to do that. And I would rather have a world army where we all agree to fight against the rights and the laws that we make they don't have to involve money, but they have to. They can be all. We all want this. Nobody wants humans to be treated this way. Nobody wants animals to be treated this way. Therefore, nobody should be allowed to do it. And yes, we would have the threat of a gun or whatever, right? If you do it.
We live in a society where male genital mutilation is totally normal.
We do,
And we
let's
haven't
not
done anything
showman
about
That's
it.
not
Haven't
the
done
point.
anything about it.
and
Sure, that's not the point.
last,
My point.
The last
The
point
point
I
is,
would
I don't
also
want that
say
to
is that
happen.
concentrated power, even the billionaire who's fucking up my river, they all rely on the nature of speed as well. With more wealth becomes more speed. They're able to get things done more quickly, and that we need to slow that down intentionally as a community. It's called the dromosphere. Virilio talked about it. Lots of philosophers have, but Tom Virilio is one who talks about it the most. We don't need, I think what we all can agree on is that the way it's working now kind of sucks. And if we're going to organize society, we have to do it differently. So I think there's a lot of common ground here, but I don't know. I feel like the system, the way it exists right now, is because of money and capitalism.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of common ground on this panel. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to discuss these. It's funny. I think that the takeaway from this is that, like, any system that is implemented is going to have like fierce opposition and debate, because you're not really going to have consensus from everybody. And just four white dudes trying to solve the world, you're going to have like very different opinions from everybody. And then you start throwing in, like all different ideas, and it's really going to be, I mean, I hate to just like throw up my hands, but I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know. That's the problem. We don't have, like, we don't know what the future is going to bring. We could speculate all day. But hopefully in 99% of situations in anarchy land, that community that starts getting poisoned will be able to talk to the other community and make some sort of deal. It's not always going to be everyone being assholes all the time and everything's negative and everything like that. Most likely in anarchy, everyone's going to be a lot happier. They aren't going to have to work as much. So we're not going to have these problems that we have in society today, these issues that we have of, under the rule of how we have things now. It's not going to, it's going to be completely different if things change.
Yeah, to Jeremy's point, I think you're right. Maybe we don't know, but that's why we have we need to have ethics and principles guide us.
Yeah.
And my ethics and principles are I'm total liberationist, anti-oppression, anti-slavery. I think that freedom and liberty should be the values that we embody as well as espouse. It turns out right now, most people espouse them, but they don't actually embody them. That's what I think the show is supposed to be about, is how to explore kind of the nitty-gritty of the ethics of these things so that we can navigate these difficult problems that arise or these rough waters that we might encounter. Thank you all for joining. This is the ethical underground, everybody. Chip and I will do the members only, and we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite. It was
Subscribe
really
to Jeremy.
Subscribe to Jeremy and Jeffrey and that Chip guy.
Yeah. Subscribe to Jeremy and Jeffrey, everyone. I mean, I'm here always.
And Sky, if you're not subscribed.
You should also subscribe to Sky Jack Morgan, of course.
Thanks for the invite, guys. It was really intellectually stimulating, very enjoyable.
I appreciate you. And thank you to the moderators and everyone in the chat that kept it going. If you are a channel member of Sky City Rebels, you get extra content, extra streams, and extra love in the chat. We do the morning Sky show every day, and on Sundays we do Ethical Underground, and on Saturdays I just play guitar and hang out. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so friggin' much.